I'm running this monkey farm now, Frankenstein!
I know I'd go from rags to riches.
Why, a 4-year-old child could understand this report. Run out and find me a 4-year-old child. I can't make head or tail out of it.
Faravelli, you've got the brain of a 4-year-old boy, and I bet he was glad to get rid of it.
My fate is up to you.
Now I'd be shitting my pants if I was you.
He just cuts the dude's arm off and then walks away like he's annoyed that he had to do it. I think there's a cooler moment in the history of movies than that scene right there. What's up, everybody? We're back. It's Your List Sucks Top 100. Today we're breaking into the 60s, I think. Last week it got real. Started to get real. Get a little more comfortable with each other. That's when things get interesting because the gloves come off. We don't feel like we have to be nice anymore. So we'll see what happens this week. Scott, you won last week?
I did.
Your second week in a row?
I did, and I have bad news for everyone, is that this week is actually the one before we started. I pinpointed and said, hey, if I'm going to win a week, it's probably this week. But maybe, now that I've won two that I didn't think I would win, maybe, reverse psychology, I'm actually going to fall on my face and lose this one. But I'm hoping to make it a three-peat tonight.
All right. I think Spence came in second last week. Again, I think that was your second place finish in a row.
We
So
got
how
patterns.
you go to you think you're going to get over that hump tonight?
Kurt,
In your first place finish?
look me in the eyes and tell me I'm not getting last place tonight.
You never know.
I wore the most ridiculous thing I could find, knowing I'm gonna get fucked up tonight. It's just an inevitability.
All right, and Rue, have you? I do a really bad job of remembering who came in when, but I know you didn't.
I'm third. I'm perpetually third. I found my
Okay.
groove. Pretty sure that's where I'm landing from here on out. But from here on out, it's the beginning of the transition of you have no idea what I'm going to talk about. So the movies you might have expected on my list. We're starting to get there slowly.
All right, and finally, Jake. I mean,
What can I say?
we're having fun, right?
Yeah, I mean, I thought I had a great list, but apparently I didn't like Pacific Rim. Oh, it's not a fun movie, so that's why I feel I ended up in last.
We haven't even get to the list yet. Don't start digging yourself a hole already that you're not going to be able to get out of. All right, yeah, I think we're going to start out with number 70, and again, we're going to do standard Your List Sucks rules. Just the two of us speaking for the first three movies. So, Scott, go ahead and start me out with your number 70 through 68.
All right, my number 70, I teased this in our group chat today. It's the holiday classic, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. My 69 is Spider-Man 2.
Yikes. Future yikes.
Nice. And my 68 is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. All right. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Like many other families, probably. My family watches this every single Christmas Eve for as long as I can remember. It's not just one of my favorite holiday movies, because I'm not really that into holiday movies in general. It's one of my favorite comedies, period. I think the movie is hilarious, even though I've seen it, again, even though we watch it every single Christmas Eve. Some of the jokes never get old. Chevy Chase is perfect as the, suburban dad who is driven to the brink of madness by just, Murphy's Law, everything that could possibly go wrong, going wrong. And of course, the chief of all of the supporting characters is Randy Quaid as Cousin Eddie, who, when he comes on screen, his first 15 minutes of screen time, every single line is just absolutely hilarious. Just him standing in the front yard, that first shot when they just pan over and, it's everybody who's already been there. And then they get to the end of the line. It's like, Eddie? And they're just shocked that he's shown up. It's great. And, it's a nice heartwarming family story in the end. It's just such a fun watch every Christmas, and still just one of the funniest movies to me. You know, holiday movie or not, it makes me laugh as hard as about any other comedy. So Christmas Vacation. And then my 68 is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. A classic. You know, Milos Forman has made some all timers. This won't be the first. This won't be the last time one of his movies comes up on my list. Spoiler alert. But this is such a you know, a great adaptation of the book by Ken Kesey. I think this is a great movie about how we don't know in society, and we still don't know what to do with people who are quote unquote different, right? Whether it's they've, you know, committed crimes, maybe like Randall McMurphy has, or, you know, they have a mental handicap. For whatever reason, they're ostracized from normal society. And instead of, you know, actually trying to get to the root of the issue and question why, you know, people are the way that they are and accept them, we just like throw everyone in a hospital and say, you guys figure it out. We're just, you know, we're selfish. We want to protect ourselves from all these people. And I think this movie shows, you know, it obviously shows a lot of the negative consequences of that, especially when you have someone tyrannical like Louise Fletcher as Nurse Ratched, you know, an all-time movie villain for sure, running the facility. But, you know, it's not a totally depressing movie, right? Like there's a lot of joy that these people find in sort of the camaraderie together, in rebelling against the system, and all that stuff is really fun. And then there's hope in the end, right? You know, even though some really depressing stuff happens in the third act of the film, you know, that ending with Chief Bromden breaking out of the facility and everyone cheering is just one of those great, like, spine tingling movie moments. Yeah, I mean, this is just a classic movie. Again, another like older, you know, classic that I think is highly accessible to people. Even, you know, even people who don't watch movies pre 1980, I think this is one they can get into. And I'm shocked that nobody else had it, because it's a masterpiece in my opinion.
All right, Christmas Vacation. I love this movie. This is a a yearly watch for me and my family as well. And I think you hit the nail on the head with it, Scott. It's a very rare combination. You really don't get this too often, where it's a very good, like, family, like, heartwarming, sincere movie, but it's also very funny. You usually can't have your cake and eat it too when it comes to that kind of stuff. It's usually one or the other. Most of the time, Chevy Chase is a miss for me, but I really love him as this character. I think he just plays it so sincere. And obviously, as I've gotten older and I've had kids of my own, and I do the whole holiday thing, I can, connect with what he's trying to do there somewhere. And that's what I love about this movie. He comes from such a pure, genuine place of wanting to do this for his family that's so important to him, and just the all the crap that goes wrong. It's so much fun to watch. It's a really good Christmas movie. And just like the little, like you said with Cousin Eddie, just a little movie, like when he's when they have that little, like, thing spinning around, he just walks over and touches it, and the thing, it just collapses, and then, like, he just moves on. Just little things like that, like him wearing, like, the dickie with the black, or the black dickie with the white shirt, and just so many little little touches like that. Great movie. I love that one. And then Cuckoo's Nest. I'm bummed you have this in your bottom three, because I can't talk to everybody else and yell at them for not having this. Because I'm shocked too. This belongs on a lot of different lists. 70s were a great time for just, making movies about, people outside of culture, the other, people, like you said, that just society was a sweep under the rug, and, like, giving them a voice and giving them, like, almost like a champion. And this movie does this better than almost any of them. Nicholson is so good as that character, and Louise Fletcher, just the two of them, the back and forth they have between them, and the supporting cast, the patients in the facility are just so good. It's so real. It just feels like a real place. So yeah, that's a fantastic movie, fantastic pick. So way to start us out, Scott. Good job. Spence, we're gonna come over to you for your bottom three.
Let's hope I start strong. My number 70 is Brokeback Mountain. My 69 is Ready or Not. My 68 is Baby Driver. Fuck. All right. Brokeback Mountain is incredible. Deserved to win Best Picture. Why didn't it? People are idiots. I hold a very special heart in my place for this movie. Just for sort of breaking the mold for queer storytelling in Hollywood. I think I've gotten in a fight with Koho a couple times about just like how it wasn't like that revolutionary, but just looking back at like how it was and how impactful it was, and the conversation that started were like really meaningful to me. And beyond that, it's also just like a really incredibly powerful film. I think it's a film that on first watching can feel a little slow, but as you get more invested into Jack and Ennis's relationship, you just sort of you don't like quite just fall in love with them, but you can just feel their relationship sort of growing even through the challenges at the time. And also has one of the not worst, but just one of the hardest finales to sit through of any movie ever. It is fucking heartbreaking, but it's still worth it for the journey up until then. 69, Ready or Not. It's insanely fun. I rewatched this recently with one Mr. Motherfucking Mike Hanley, and it is such a good time. I like my thesis for this, like this is my favorite like horror comedy ever, because like I didn't grow up on the Sam Raimi type shit, and this is just a movie that sort of like broke me in a good way. Of just wow, I did not think this would be my type of movie, and I think about it constantly. I think it has some amazing kills, some really great jokes and great characters who really fit and like round out the world, as well as Samara Weaving giving like an incredible what's the word? Like an incredible final girl performance, as well as like the finale. Like, so this would go higher on my list if not for the actual ending of it, the big plot twist of it all, which is bullshit and dumb. Everything else though is okay. I'm not talking about like the actual like. Have you three seen it? Okay, I think them being Satanists is bullshit and is unreasonable. I think there's better reasonings for it. The explosions are funny as fuck. Okay. I stand by that's great scenes. Everyone's death is awesome. Them being Satanists does not work. Does not need to be there. And 68, Baby Driver. I don't have a lot to say about this, mostly because Cameron Holtzman is a human. Has said everything on Earth about this movie in previous YLSs, and I believe everyone else has been. I think it's appeared on every YLS prior. This is a great movie. I love it. Edgar Wright, he's awesome. Honestly, him being named Miles is stupid, but I still love the movie.
All right, Brokeback Mountain. Still haven't seen this one.
What?
I had the opportunity to watch this, Oscar-worthy, poignant, important drama. But there were other movies I watched instead this week, Spence, that we may or may not be talking about later. So
okay, but
we'll
you chose to watch a Rob Zombie movie over this. That's your fault.
It's week to week. There's a lot of moving parts in my life.
I'm judging
Don't
too.
judge me. Ready or Not, yeah. I like this movie. I had a lot of fun with it. I went in not knowing much about Samara Weaving at all. Like this is really the first thing I saw her in. And when I saw the trailers, I'm like, oh, obviously they wanted Margot Robbie and they couldn't get Margot Robbie, so they got discount Margot Robbie, and I went in with low expectations. But I really liked her. I thought she was fantastic in this. I really think she carried the movie. I think she played, like you said, great final girl. And I just like the tone of this movie is spot on. It knows exactly what movie it is, and it just plays that out the whole way through so well. The twist is a little weird, but I think it's in keeping with the spirit of the entire movie. Because I mean, like the premise of it is dumb. Like it's this like family who's built their empire on games. It's just a dumb premise, but the movie knows that and has fun with it.
Fuck Hasbro, am I right?
But no, that movie is a lot of fun. I enjoy it. Baby Driver, I enjoy not as much as everybody else. I've said this before. My biggest complaint about this movie is I think it's over stylized. I feel like part of it, like their scenes here, just feel like jeans commercials. Like it's just too like on the nose with like the music and the motion and everything. But it's fun. It's my least favorite Edgar Wright movie, but I mean, that's just because I like him in his wheelhouse. I'm excited for Last Night in Soho. We'll see how that goes. But all right, okay, Rue, let's do your 70 through 68.
All right, my number 70 is Men in Black. My 69.
Oh, yikes! For a future episode.
All right. My 69 is Pitch Perfect.
Yikes! Later episode.
And my 68 is Liar Liar. All right, so I'll talk about Liar Liar. I think Liar Liar is Jim Carrey's best 90s comedy. because it is the one that balances out the goofy wackiness that goes sometimes a little over the top in Ace Ventura and Dumb and Dumber with actual heart and earnestness, and hits a really good sweet spot that creates some of the funniest moments I've ever seen him in. The bloopers themselves are actually hilarious. We'll bring bloopers back from last week. But just the things he spouts out, and yes, best, period. Because again, these other ones are a little bit too much. But the truths he has to spout out, him having to fight himself about it, they're some of the most hilarious things that laugh out loud funny time I've had with a Jim Carrey movie. And also, it brings me back the memory of my Argentine uncle going to that movie and trying to figure out what the claw is and going, the claw, what is the claw? And it brings more life to me. So I think that Cable Guy is trash. So we're not going to bring that up. But I think a lot of his other movies in the 90s, a lot of his movies I love, even the ones I love, kind of go too big and too wacky that for some people it's too much. And I think this one is the sweet spot for him to kind of tone it down, but still be Jim Carrey at his peak.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you a lot on Liar Liar, because when this movie came out, I had enough of Jim Carrey. I was over the shtick, and I didn't need any more. And this one is really, like you said, it's really heartfelt. It's a genuine performance. He's not just playing like the goofy character. He does the goofy stuff, but there's heart and there's layers to it. And I think that's I probably would say this is my favorite movie of his of the 90s. Because like I said, just because he's not being a clown the entire time, because that got old for me really fast. But yeah, I think you see here a little bit of what you're going to get later in his career when he starts taking on the more serious, more dramatic roles. This is kind of like the seed of that was planted, I guess. So yeah, it's a solid movie. Good pick. Jake, where are you at with your bottom three? Let's go.
At number 70, I have Schindler's List.
Well, that's a yikes for a future episode.
Okay. At number 69, I have Catch Me If You Can.
That's
Yikes
a
to this
yikes for a
episode.
future episode.
I knew that.
Okay, good for you guys. Hey. And at number 68, I have Titanic.
And I had that earlier. So
Yes, you did have that earlier. Okay, so I guess I'll just talk about Titanic. So Titanic is really deep down when it comes to it. It's like a movie that's an excuse for James Cameron to like explore the bottom of the ocean for the Titanic. And then furthermore, it's a movie for James Cameron to use all of this incredible technology to recreate the Titanic. But somehow in between all that, he managed to find a way to gel all those things together that it makes sense on a story level for the larger theme that he's trying to tell about this tragedy. It makes sense that he shows all these parts of the boat and deconstructs the boat and shows all these different areas, and here's the crew, and here's the rich people, here's the poor people, here's the he shows everything. And then in the final act of the movie, when the boat's actually sinking, it all collapses in together, and it turns out that all of these roles are really arbitrary and death comes for everyone. And these classes, you could try and hold on to them, but really it just collapses on in some ways, and in some ways people manage to cling on to it. And that's really the thing that I think is incredible about the movie, that it justifies its existence in basically every way, and manages to be appealing to the father who's like, I want to see someone recreate this historical thing, and the 10-year-old girl who's like, I want to see cute Leo, so that's what I love about Titanic. Kirk, what do you think of Titanic? I really don't know.
You don't want to know, Jake. I just want to say this was in my 90s, so you can't hold it against me for tonight's episode, Kirk. But I love this movie. If it wasn't for Billy Zane, it would probably be even higher on my list.
Come on.
When he knocks over the table or whatever, it's too far for me. But the movie's fantastic. I just love the contrast between this like epic ship and epic like sense of adventure, and then a very intimate story between these two people from very different lifestyles falling in love, and like as they are both like exploring the majesty and everything of this ship, they're also exploring what it's like to have a real connection and romance with each other. And I mean, of course, the last hour is amazing and still holds up with some of the best special effects ever. But I mean, I do love the first 2/3 of the movie. The human story, the romance. It just has that very epic, old fashioned Hollywood movie to it, feel to it. And I think James Cameron, he's not the world's strongest screenwriter, but I think the feelings he's able to capture the feelings that you want to feel when you're watching Titanic, even if the writing's not all the way there. So I think the movie is fantastic. It holds up. I'm not one of the people who thinks who is too cool for Titanic, and it makes me sad that there are people out there who are like that. But yeah, this is my favorite James Cameron movie.
A real man makes his own luck. Billy Zane, Titanic. Dwight Schrute, The Office. Yeah, I've talked about Titanic a lot, and you've all heard me say everything I have to say about this, about hack fraud, James Cameron, and how he manipulates people with his movies. I don't think the effects hold up. Leo was not a good actor at this point in his career. The theme song was, created in a lab to like manipulate your emotions. Everything about this to me is just so like, I just feel like I'm wearing the They Live glasses when I watch this movie, and I'm just seeing through it. It's just such a sham. I don't like this movie at all. I was going to try and rewatch it for this, but I didn't want to. I'm just not a fan. I just would also point out that after Jake's final movie for last week, if you guys remember, his first 2 picks this week are biopics that just tell what happens. Anybody else notice that?
Strongly did.
I knew there was something coming.
Strongly disagree. But yeah, I don't. Yeah.
No, it's fine.
Right.
Like I said last week, always to tell stories. It's okay. All right, we're going to get into the meat of the list here. Scott, let's come back to you. We're going to go to your number 67.
All right. Well, so I was debating when I was going to tease what I was going to say, put tonight. I was debating either doing the Moose Cup from Christmas Vacation or just posting a picture of Simon and Garfunkel, because my number 67 is The Graduate. I'm telling you, I'm winning despite Titanic. Yeah, The Graduate is another masterpiece, one of the great coming of age movies that captures a very specific moment in coming of age, which is like when you've graduated from college and you're on the brink of like adulthood, but you still haven't really figured everything out yet. You're kind of like, okay, I went through college. It was great. What was all that for, right? Like, what is my purpose in life? And I think the movie captures that malaise very, perfectly. And as much as it is sort of a romance, it's also just again about Dustin Hoffman's character Benjamin just looking for what's next in his life, and he's just floating around in his pool aimlessly because he doesn't exactly know what it was all for at this point in his life. And I think that's a pretty accurate portrayal for a lot of people of what it is like to be at this point in your life, because it's like, oh, college should have it wasn't it supposed to teach me how to be an adult, like adult things, like what did I really learn here? And it's just like that transitional period, and I think it captures that moment perfectly, like I said. Dustin Hoffman's fantastic in the movie. So are Anne Bancroft and Catherine Ross. 3 really strong performances, I think. And the cinematography of this movie is something, when I first watched it, I wasn't expecting it to be as visually interesting as it is. Like, there's a lot of really like dreamy, fluid shots and everything, and it really creates an atmosphere that I think again matches that sort of surreal, like aimless sort of tone that the movie is going for. And so it's a very visually interesting movie, which I wasn't expecting. And of course, the Simon and Garfunkel songs are perfect. Simon and Garfunkel, are one of my favorite groups. I just wish that instead of Sound of Silence, they would have ended the movie with America, because that's my favorite Simon and Garfunkel song. But Sound of Silence probably makes more sense in the context. And I will say that final shot, definitely one of the great final shots of any movie, of them on the back of the bus, just like looking at each other like, oh, this is awesome. And then in the blink of an eye, what exactly do we just do here? The Graduate, it's amazing.
Scott, you're having a great night. America's my favorite Simon Garfunkel song too.
Yes.
This is a great movie. I think this just kind of set the mold for so much that came later. Hoffman's great, and it just is that kind of like, just like you said, drifting through life, trying to figure out, what's going on and who's what he's going to do next. Just completely like kind of self-absorbed and like kind of like coming out of that. And that's, I love the ending, because so many of these endings now, what happens is with these movies is they end and it's like, oh, it's super happy and it's going to go on forever. We talked about what's the John Cusack movie we talked about a couple weeks ago? Say Anything. Like Say Anything, like ends on them on the plane. It's like, yeah, great, they're together, it's going to be awesome. And this movie gives you that moment of like, wait a minute, like real life still has to happen now. What's going to happen next? I love that so much about this movie. You guys all should have had a Graduate on your list. You didn't. Tell me why not.
I don't get it. I really don't. Like, I've seen it, like, I think 3 times now for different reasons, and it's like, it's good performances. The music's all good. The dialogue it's all right. I don't connect with it. And there's a lot of just decisions in this movie that just rub me like the absolute wrong way. Like, I stand by my Letterboxd review on it, where I just have major moments of whiplash with this movie, of I either love it or hate it from scene to scene. And I cannot just like, I can't get behind the love for it.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
Yes.
Classics is a huge blind spot for me. There are a lot of classic movies I haven't seen. I haven't seen this one, but I do know that somebody there went to UC Berkeley, so I'll leave it off with Go Bears.
I'm kind of with Adelaide on this one. I saw this in the 8th grade, and since then, I've had a bunch of people like explain to me why it was important and why it was significant to New Hollywood. I have Mike Nichols' book, the Mike Nichols book by I forget the author. Mark Harris, and I'm willing to rewatch it again, but yeah, it feels like one of those things that it's like an English teacher needs to explain to me like why this was significant and different at the time, and I just don't really enjoy it on a visceral level.
And you're muted.
Oh, okay.
Here we go.
There we go.
Okay, what's your next one, Scott?
All right, another coming of age movie, Juno. I know some people don't think this movie holds up. I'm not one of them. I think this movie is just as smart and fun and emotionally resonant as it was the day that it came out in 2007. Diablo Cody like pulls off such a tricky task, I think, of creating her own like lingo for this movie, creating the characters who speak in this sort of heightened, diction that people don't actually speak in that way. But it doesn't come off as overly quirky or annoying or off-putting. It comes off with the exact sort of snappy, witty effect that she's going for. And I think that the movie is really like, I just love the affection that the movie has for all of its characters, and the real affection for the situation, the sensitivity for the situation that Elliot Page as Juno is going through. Portrays sort of all sides of this teenage pregnancy, quote unquote, debate, I guess, if you want to call it a debate. It portrays all of them with a real sensitivity that I respect. I love the supporting characters, the parents in particular, played by J.K. Simmons and Allison Janney. Again, the way that they just are so supportive of her, from the moment that Juno announces that she's pregnant. they're really supportive of her, and J.K. Simmons, obviously one of the great lines in the movie is him. Next time I see that Bleecker kid, I'm gonna punch him in the wiener. It's just a really fun movie. But then the second half of the movie, I think, also works really well when Jason Bateman and Jennifer Garner get involved, and that sort of connection that Juno and Jennifer Garner's character, that sort of like unspoken connection of them both being women, like at very tricky situations. And like, when Juno leaves her the note that just says like, if you're still in, I'm still in at the end. It's just such a nice moment. This is just a nice movie. And it's very positive in the end. And I love the way it takes very difficult subject matter and looks at it with a very positive outlook and about the possibilities of the situation. So I love Juno.
Haven't seen this one in a while. I like this movie. The biggest sticking point for this movie for me, though, is I think the dialogue is good. I think it's a very good script, but I think it's too good. Where when she talks, she doesn't sound like a high school girl. She sounds like a woman in her 30s or however old Diablo Cody was when she wrote this. So I never feel like I'm watching a teenager go through this. I feel like I'm watching an adult who kind of has it all together already, has it figured out because of how smart the dialogue is, how smart the character is. I just don't feel because of how smart how quick that and snappy though is. Like, she's going to figure this out. She's too smart. And I never connect with the movie on that level, like that struggle she's going through. But other than that, like I said, it's kind of like its strength working against itself for me. Other than that, everybody else on Juno.
Oh, go on.
Go.
Oh, I really like Juno. I agree with you. I like the slightly stylized dialogue. I like how 2007 the whole thing is. My favorite performance in it is the adopting parents, the Garner and Bateman. I think they're extraordinarily well cast because the movie gets that Jason Bateman is a little slippery, and a lot of Jason Bateman roles don't understand that about him. And I think that's really exceptional casting. And they also get that Jennifer Garner is a little annoying. She's a little bit I struggle to find the word.
She is a Karen in this movie.
A little bit, right? And but there's still something you love about her. And the movie understands that so much. And apparently they course corrected the script to change the ending to fit the emotional truth of it, which I think really saves the whole thing.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen Juno. I really liked it when I saw it, but that was kind of what stuck out most to me is because I was getting into the movie with Sarah and Elliot Page, and then all of a sudden they shift to that couple, and it's just right. It's you like Bateman up until you realize how slippery he is, so you kind of just go right past, okay, you're a bit of a sleazebag, and you get annoyed by Garner right up until the point where it's like, but you are actually a really sweet person that's really just trying to do nice, and they do it perfectly. I remember feeling that shift, like, damn, that was not something I saw coming, and I really enjoyed that. So Juno's a good pick.
I really need to rewatch this. I haven't seen it since high school, and I hated it then. I haven't really given myself a chance to reanalyze it. I think my issue back then was just it was overly quirky, and I still don't love Diablo Cody's dialogue. Only time it really worked for me was Tully, and that's because it was it was non-existent. Her weirdness, even Jennifer's body is too much, but on rewatch it might go up.
All right, Scott, I'm going to need your number 65, please.
All right. Definitely we're taking a shift in a different direction here. My 65, David Fincher's 7. Looks like he wants to yikes it, but okay, I'm guessing that's
if it's above 64, it's yikes.
There's reasons, but no yikes.
Okay. So I said last week when he talked about Gone Girl, I think Fincher has 4 masterpieces. Here's number 2. This is an incredible crime film, incredible psychological crime film. I think, first of all, I want to say I think this is Morgan Freeman's best performance. This is my favorite Morgan Freeman performance at the very least. his character is just so interesting. Like I love the scene with him and Gwyneth Paltrow in the diner where they're just talking, and he's talking about how he didn't want to like bring a child into this world. It's like it's such a it's such a great statement of his like great anecdote to explain like his philosophy, his outlook on life. And I think that's the most interesting thread of the movie. In addition to it being like very, absorbing mystery with some very like grisly, gruesome, creative murders. It's an interesting psychological story about this guy, Somerset, who has like had it with the world, right? He just sees like so much moral depravity in the world, and he's had it to the point where he's retiring from being a cop. And then he encounters this agent of chaos, John Doe, who actually sees the world in kind of the exact same way. And who is also doing what he's doing because he's like disgusted with what he sees as moral depravity in the world. And so that that sort of psychological battle that you know erupts, where Morgan Freeman is kind of like, man, am I like two steps away from becoming this guy? And then obviously, Brad Pitt as Mills, I think plays an important role as sort of the impulsive guy who just hasn't really necessarily formed this complicated of a view of the world yet. He's kind of just reacting. He's very reactive, I guess. He's just reacting into the moment, in the moment, as to what he sees as right and wrong. It's not again, Fincher is so good at like it's not an uplifting or positive, optimistic movie at all. It's an upsetting movie. The note that it ends on, about like, oh, is life even worth it? Right, that final quote that Morgan Freeman has, like the voiceover. It doesn't leave you on a super happy note, but it's a rewatchable movie somehow. Again, this is what Fincher manages to do. Like the craft is just so expert that you just want to keep coming back to it and soaking up the great filmmaking. Also, a great chase sequence in the movie, like when there is the one moment of action. It's very stylized and done very well, I think. So Seven is just an exceptional crime movie that really holds up. And it, like I said, I think it's one of Fincher's 4 masterpieces.
I hadn't seen this movie in a really long time, and I rewatched it last Top 100 because somebody had it on their list, and I forgot so much about this movie. Like I remembered all the kills, I remembered all the the jump scares and everything, and just the brutality and the gruesomeness of it. But I forgot what a fantastic just film noir this is. I think I read somewhere Fincher said he wanted to make a black and white movie in color. That's really what this is. Cinematography is so great. Just the way it looks, the way it's shot, and the way it takes its time. Like that scene at the gluttony crime scene where they're just like kind of walking around, and they're quietly just trying to figure a thing out, and you are too. And it's not like filling the silence with anything. It just letting it breathe, and it's just there.
It is a quiet movie. Yeah, that's like a plus too.
Very quiet movie. It uses that silence, and it just has that otherworldly feel. Like you never know. It's always raining, and you never know what city they're in. It kind of has like this like otherworldliness to it, and that just ends like the city's almost like a reflection of Morgan Freeman's character. And the scenes with him in the library studying, and just so much great stuff in here, and the scary stuff is scary. It's great. John Doe is great, and Spacey's a great villain. Brad Pitt's awesome in it. Just him and Morgan Freeman together, then him and Spacey in the car at the end. That scene and that whole monologue, so good. I'm mad. I was mad at myself when I rewatched this for being away from this movie for so long because of how good it is. That chase scene too. That's the other thing. That chase scene, such a great chase scene. Yeah, really solid movie. Another one you guys should have had. What are your thoughts on 7?
What's in the box? This movie was on my list and had bounced around for so long. And then I eventually got to the point, because I was moving things around, that I said, I got to keep movies that I've either seen a lot or movies that I haven't seen in a really, really long time and not that many times. I just can't in my heart keep. And I'm with Kirk. It's been so long since I've seen that movie that I remember I was enthralled by it, but I probably haven't seen it in like 15, 20 years, and I need to go back and see it. If I had watched it before we started, it'd be on the list.
I remember when I first saw this movie, it was like when they reveal that John Doe is played by Kevin Spacey, you're like, oh, it's Kevin Spacey. And I wonder now if you were watching this for the first time, you'd be like, oh, it's Kevin Spacey.
He's still really good in it, though.
It's a great movie. Yeah, I like the movie too, but it's just still like it's Kevin Spacey.
Yeah.
Surprise, it's Kevin Spacey.
This movie is not my favorite venture. I think just it's my number 5 of his. I do really love it, and it's a great movie. It's just at the end of the day, there's ones I like more than this one I've already talked about on the show. Even I have no qualms with the one liking it. If you say it's your favorite, good for you. A great fucking movie. It's just not. It's not quite my bag.
All right. That's going to take. No, we did your 64, Scott.
Yeah. So this is a movie no one has seen, but it's another quirky coming of age movie from 2007 called Rocket Science. So
Yikes.
again, I doubt anyone has seen. I doubt anyone has seen this movie. But it's directed by this guy Jeffrey Blitz, who directed a documentary called Spellbound about the spelling bee, which people may have actually seen. But I think he translates his sort of observational comedy of that documentary to the world of high school in Rocket Science, which is kind of a Wes Anderson-y type movie about this kid in high school who has a stuttering problem and gets recruited to join the debate team by a more popular, confident girl in school who's played by Anna Kendrick in one of her first roles. And Reese Thompson plays the kid, Hal. And it's a great, but also very grounded story of a kid finding his voice, both metaphorically and literally, as he, experiences this activity that he shouldn't be good at, and he's not really good at it, right? Like he has a defect that he can't really overcome. But there's some great comedy in the movie. Like it's a very, very funny movie. Like some of the ways that he tries to overcome his stuttering, when he actually gets up there to debate are pretty hilarious. Margot Martindale plays the debate coach, who tries to offer him advice as best as she can, and it's a perfect role for character actress Margot Martindale. And like I said, I just appreciate how grounded the movie is. I don't think it turns Hal into like some conquering hero or anything. I think there are actually aspects of his personality that are a little off-putting, but the way the movie gives him a little bit of catharsis in the end in a way that doesn't feel unrealistic, right? It's a very believable catharsis that happens at the end. It's not like, oh, he becomes, some mild spoilers. It's not like, oh, he suddenly becomes this incredible debater and wins the debate tournament, because that's just not realistic. But the way that the movie does wrap up, I think I really appreciate. There's some nice twists in the story too. Nicholas D'Agostino plays this character Ben, who's like the champion debater, and he gives a great supporting performance. And I love the direction that they take that character in. Like I said, it has a sort of quirky feel that's kind of its own. If I had to compare it to somebody else, so it'd be Wes Anderson. But this is a really underrated hidden gem of a movie that I hope people will check out.
I haven't got to see this yet. I wanted to because I'd never heard of it. Once you put your list, I looked it up and just read the synopsis and looking at the cast. It looks like I'd probably enjoy it. And just looking at the director's filmography, I haven't seen Spellbound, but I have seen Table 19, and I like that. So this is one I will check out. Everybody else on Rocket Science, have y'all seen it?
I only haven't seen it. So Scott, my concern for this, there is a trend between you and one Paulo Yama. You generally agree on coming of age films. This is the second one I've seen you disagree on, and that concerns me deeply.
Yeah, I get Paul to watch these movies, and then I'm always disappointed by his response to them. But yeah, I don't know what to make of that. But
I wanted to watch it. That's how the review. Like now I'm worried. Like I'm really worried.
Who do you trust more, Spence?
John's there. Which one do I take?
You can plead the fifth. It's fine.
Rue or Jake, you guys seen this?
I added it to my list. My brother, he had a really bad. He still has a really bad stutter, and I always just. It's gonna be like probably a hard one to watch, honestly. So yeah, it sounds interesting. I gotta check that out.
Does sound interesting.
All right, that takes it over to Spence. Spence, start us off with your number 67, please.
67 is Catch Me If You Can. Yikes, 66.
Yes, yikes for another episode.
66 is Tangerine. So let's fucking go, Scott. Sean Baker fucking rocks. I love this movie so much. For those who don't know, just wonderful, quaint little film, very casual, about two trans prostitutes in LA who just hang out in LA and hunt down a shitty boyfriend. And it is insanely fun. I honestly, this is such like not a me movie. It's a rare example of slice of life really working, of people sort of existing, and there is no like larger story. There isn't like there is like a goal to accomplish, but everything until then is just sort of wandering around the city and seeing how they approach life in different ways, about how even their transition is perceived by other prostitutes, by pimps, by citizens, and even by some of their some of the people they sleep with. I think it's just so incredibly interesting. And again, the leads, Kiki Rodriguez and Maya Taylor, are both insanely funny. And while this has like a really small cast, I think that it's the world can still feel really, really lived in. And again, Sean Baker, my God, I think he did an incredible job putting this together. And this man basically has a free pass for anything he makes in the future because of this.
Okay. I watched this week. I hadn't seen it before. I had it on my watch list, like my Hulu watch list forever, just hadn't gotten to it. So I watched it, and I really liked it. I like movies. Like if you give me like a like you said, small cast, a character with like a very simple but very specific goal, just trying to get that achieved in a short span of time, that I love that kind of story. And that's exactly what this is. And I love the way it's shot. It looks great. I think he did all this on an iPhone, right? Wasn't this on an iPhone?
Yeah, this is an iPhone movie.
Yeah, and it looks fantastic. It's a really. I just love how it goes from like, day to night, and just the way the look changes. I just love the aesthetic of it being like LA Halloween or LA Christmas, and how it's like it's Christmas, but it's LA Christmas, so it doesn't really feel like Christmas. But you see like things splattered throughout that, like, oh yeah, that's what Christmas looks like there. And I think the cast is great. I think they're really funny. Like there's like so many moments where like the characters aren't trying to be funny, but it just their personalities come out. I forget the character's name, the friend, who's like the whole time her whole thing is she has a show to go to. She's going to be put on this performance, trying to get everything to be good to it, and it's like really heartbreaking. How that turns out. It's really heartbreaking how that turns out for her, and just really realistic. And it's a very real story. I really like this. I like him. I loved Florida Project, so I'm looking forward to what he has coming out next. Everybody else on Tangerine.
Yeah, I was going to say, I am so looking forward to his next movie, Red Rocket, which has already played at some festivals, coming out later this year. What Sean Baker is really good at is taking, these corners of society that aren't represented really in film or any other media, and, shedding light on them and really humanizing them and showing the way that they live. Tangerine is a great example of that. It's also a great example of him as a visual stylist, which I think he only refined and polished more in his next movie, which it might come up. Who knows? Tangerine is a great movie, and is the type of movie that I love seeing from indie filmmakers. Like it's the type of thing that just gets me excited to watch indie film and experience a new auteur. It's energized with that sort of feel. So I love Tangerine.
Yeah, I really. Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll make this quick because I haven't seen it. It allows me to finally bring this up this movie, Spence. Wackiness level. Tangerine, Zola.
Less wacky.
They're comparable.
Got you. Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah, I think that that Sean Baker is clearly a really good listener who has a gift for embedding himself into these underrepresented groups and giving voice to things that you don't really see anywhere else, unfortunately. And yeah, I can't wait to see where this guy's career goes because I think this movie is incredible. It's a great pick.
All right, Spence. What do you got for number 65?
Hey, Kirk. You know how I just like showed you a really good movie for the first time? All that goodwill that we've fostered together as friends, you know? My 65 is a fandom film, one of a handful I have on my list from the best category YA dystopia. It is The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1.
Hey, Todd? What the fuck?
There it is.
So,
Unacceptable!
this is 65 is fine. If you remember from a few weeks ago talking about Wag the Dog and Urgida, I think that propaganda in films is so interesting and so engaging. And I think that this film captures it really well. I think that once Katniss has been rescued and is taken to District 13, everything going on there with them having a propaganda war with the Capitol and them utilizing Peeta as like a prisoner of war is so interesting. And every propo they film, it's just the biting back and forth and trying to start a war and like not trust the other one is awesome. And then when you actually get out of there and see how the world is really ravaged by the Capitol, not just a couple districts with 12 and the games, everywhere is destroyed by them. It builds the world in such an interesting way, as well as gives us incredible Philip Seymour Hoffman and okay Julianne Moore until she's shit in the second film. This is the film I honestly look forward to when I watch the franchise. It's like, yes, I think the first two are fantastic, but this is just such a intense film, both from an action perspective and from like an emotional, like burdening perspective from the characters. No one else in the world likes it as much as I do. I don't know what the fuck it is, but I am so like driven and engaged with this every time I watch it. Kirk, just give me the app. We can move on.
Yeah, I don't know what I mean, I've seen these all. I've seen all these, and it's because Kathy likes the books and the movies, so I've watched them all. I don't remember what happens to this one. I was kind of over it at this point, and they all blend together. Peeta's a really dumb character name. That's the one. That's my biggest takeaway from these movies. But I was about 2/3 of the way through the first one when I realized his name was Peeta and not Peter, and it really bothered me. But yeah, like I said, I know I talk about it, but I'd probably be talking about mostly the stuff that happened in the second or in Mockingjay 2. It doesn't matter. Everybody else on Mockingjay 1.
My only issue with you having this is that it sounds like it's the only one when there's definitely a much better film in this series, but I may be wrong. We'll see. I enjoy this movie. I love the books. I will say, I think Mockingjay probably should have been kept as a single film because it's too damn slow. But I'm with you that it captures the emotional weight that the books really have in Mockingjay, because it's the most emotional one. It's the one that you go see the world and you really see the epic amount of, as you said, the damage that the Capitol has actually done, and contrast that with the opulence in the first movie and in the games and everything. So I'm with you on how good this movie is. It's not in my top 100, but I don't fault you. Unless you don't have another one ahead of this.
So I read all the books, of course, like everybody when they came out. And then I saw the first two movies. I'll be honest, I really do enjoy the first two movies. I think the second one is probably even better than the first one. And then I think I'm with Kirk. Like, I was just over it for whatever reason. The time between Catching Fire coming out and this movie coming out, I think many others, just like I was done with the Hunger Games. So this movie came out and I was like, oh yeah, I'll see it eventually. Still haven't seen it. And then Spence mentioned that there was a part 2. This is the first I'm hearing of it because I don't think I'm not convinced that movie was ever released. But you know what? Live your truth, Spence.
It was in part 2. They kill off all of the interesting characters, and it's just really shitty and boring.
Well, yeah, I remember the book.
Yeah, I didn't read any of the books or anything, but I got dragged by a girlfriend to see all the movies, and I actually really respect this pick. I don't love this movie, but I can't deny that it's doing something interesting. It's kind of reminds me of the Dune Messiah, the sequel to Dune, where it's kind of leaning into this like harder sci-fi concept of maybe like positive propaganda and trying to build a charismatic leader out of Katniss and shape her into a symbol, possibly dehumanizing her. I think that's all really interesting, fertile ground. I've been meaning to rewatch this for that reason, actually. So I think it's an interesting pick.
All right.
So in your mind, this isn't the bad pick of my list this week, which terrifies me.
I don't know. I like it when people defend weird shit.
64, Star Wars Born, but not the new one, because the new one is also great, but this one's better. 54 with my girl Judy Garland. This movie's just fucking great. I would classify this as a really great raining day movie, where it's just like a wave of this major sentimentality for like old Hollywood, and seeing how this young up and coming star can get brought in and just be pushed as like this major talent just because someone wanted her to, and how she has all this love for the industry and her work. And I think every version has like this subtle analysis of her relationship with the main leading man, played by James Mason, Norman Maine, and I think their dynamic is one so inherently interesting. But I truly feel like the age difference in this, and I think it really fuels the relationship and his depression going further through the film. It's not radically different than the other ones, but I think everything here is just honestly incredible. And I think it could just be sort of a their adaptation for some people, except for one scene. And I think Judy Garland created one of the best, or at least one of my favorite performances in any musical ever, with The Man That Got Away, which is her just singing her heart out in a scene that could have just been there and empty and nothing. But she puts her soul into this, which makes me love the film deeper and care about her character, Vicky Lester, as the film goes on.
Okay, I haven't seen this one yet. Somebody had 2018 on their list earlier, did they? Did we talk about this?
No.
I feel like we talked about this. Maybe it's the other show. I don't know. I feel like I love 2018. I want to see them all just to kind of compare, because it's just coming from different eras, how different eras handle that story. But I'm also nervous because the story is so complex and so gritty that I'm kind of not looking forward to seeing how they handle that in 1954. It just seems to me like that's something they wouldn't do well, but I could be wrong. I want to watch. Go ahead.
What if I told you it's about movies and it's shot in Technicolor, so it looks really pretty?
You said James Mason's in it? I really like James Mason. I'm a big James Mason.
He's incredible in this.
I'll check this one out.
Kirk, what if I told you it's 3 hours long?
It's 2.5 hours. Check yourself.
Are we watching a 30 for 30? Come on.
Yeah.
Everybody else on Stars Born 54. Anybody seen it?
Yeah, I watched this in the wrong headspace. It is like a long movie, so like you really do need to be in the right mood to watch something like this. And I just wasn't. It was one of my late night movies, and you just can't watch a 3-hour epic on like at 2 a.m. You know, like you can't just decide to do that. It's the wrong move. It's my fault. It's probably great.
All right. That takes us to Amaru and your number 67.
It took us 4 episodes, but we finally got here. My number 67 is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. This movie has the task of taking the absolute longest book or one of the longest books and cutting down a whole lot of fat. And I think it does a marvelous job of taking out things and still making the movie cohesive. Winky, Ludo Bagman, and a lot of just the middling stuff that goes along with it. And that's why I said one of the largest books, because Order of the Phoenix did just an okay job of trimming down some of the fat and leaving some in there. I would love an extended edition, because a lot of people who read the books don't like this movie because they think it's not a good adaptation. But this is my perfect example of separate the books from the movies. As much as I love movies made from books, you have to separate them. And putting in the Quidditch World Cup is something that like an extended edition could do. The one thing I am mad about, that third task is such a disappointment to me, even though the use of the maze to kind of show what the competitors, their darkest sides are cool. I wanted the Sphinx. I wanted the Acromantulas. I wanted all of that, and I was very disappointed in seeing that. However, the reason I just love this movie, it's because it's basically the transition that's going to get you ready to get in some shit with the rest of the series. So it has the darkness. It has the really just gripping moment of when Voldemort says, "Kill the spare," and kills off fucking Edward Cullen and all the teenage girls who start crying. But the moment where they bring him back and his dad Amos is crying over his body is really heart-wrenching, but it's still a high school movie. It's the movie that is one of the most high school movies, with the Yule Ball and the whimsy of all of that. And then bringing in the task is a real nice action adventure feeling to it with the dragons and the lake scene, and then has some of the best performances or best characters coming in as new characters. David Tennant is great as Barty Crouch Jr. I think Brendan Gleeson is one of my favorite actors as Mad-Eye Moody in the entire thing. And then one other thing people really talk about is Michael Gambon's portrayal of Dumbledore, especially in this. Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire? People hate that because he's supposed to be like calm and quiet. I like the interpretation of that line because I think it's funny. But also it's the one where you're starting to see that, again, it's getting you set up for the next 4 movies that are dark as shit. And Dumbledore needs to kind of start treating Harry like shit moving forward. So he's getting him ready to be like, yo, I can't sugarcoat a lot this anymore. We're really starting to get into it. So that's why I'm okay with that kind of harsher interpretation of Dumbledore's a bit. That speech he gives right before they go into the third task of like people lose themselves in that and that look he gives to Moody right before it closes, like he knows what's going on. Harry Potter just has a stat cast. Alan Rickman's always good. Dame Maggie Smith is always amazing. And this is one of my top Harry Potter films in the entire series, especially because it has that great mix of wide-eyed wonder and darkness that's approaching later in the series.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. That's what's interesting about this movie. It has a lot to do because those first 3 movies are more or less, I mean, there's a thread going through it, but those are more or less standalone movies. And it's about kids, and it's about like, oh, we're in a magic school and everything's magic and it's cool. Even though Prisoner of Azkaban's a lot darker than the first 2, and it's a lot different than the first 2. It still has that kind of feel to it. This is where the story really starts, like you said, where it starts to get dark and a lot more, they're a lot more mature. And, this is where it's all downhill, not quality-wise, but momentum-wise, the story just goes downhill from there.
Their hair is epic. The maturity of that hair across the board.
But, so I enjoy it for that. And, yeah, this is probably my 4th favorite Potter movie. But I enjoy it. I think this is probably one of the most watchable ones. And like you said, I think it does a good job. It doesn't feel like it's a book. Like, I feel like Order of the Phoenix feels like a book that got chopped to pieces to shoehorn into a movie. This movie doesn't feel like that. You can watch this and you grasp what's going on and what everything means, even without any previous knowledge of the books. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not my favorite Potter, but it's not a bad pick. Everybody else on Goblet of Fire.
this is actually my favorite Potter movie, pretty significantly actually. So I'm worried about the next few weeks, but this is a pretty good pick.
Yeah, I enjoy this one a lot. I personally, even though I'm not the biggest fandom guy, I think that the Wizarding World, well, the Harry Potter movies, are the most consistent of all the fandom, like consistently good of all the fandom franchises. So I think this one's really good. I do think that like visually it is dark in a way that it doesn't always work for me. It doesn't pop in the way that like the first couple of movies do. So that's kind of a downside. But you said that it has a lot of the coming of age elements more so than a lot of the other movies, and I like that about it. I even like the fact that Ron is kind of just a d-bag throughout the entire movie, because who wasn't like at this when they were this age, like who wasn't just moody like that? And the best part of the movie is, of course, that Jarvis Cocker, the lead singer of Pulp, plays the band leader at the Yule Ball.
The Weird
Which is
Sisters.
awesome.
That's the name of the band.
Yeah, which is awesome because I love Jarvis Cocker. So this is a good pick. And also, as a Hufflepuff, I have to just put some respect out for Cedric Diggory. So
Yes. I will say Ron being a dick does lead me to one of my favorite scenes in the entire series of Hermione going back and forth about Ron telling Neville and then yelling at him that she's not an owl. Love that delivery.
It doesn't surprise me that this is your favorite Harry Potter movie, because it is. If any Harry Potter movie was the most like Bad Boys, it is this one. It has that propulsive energy. It's like a lot of fun. My favorite is Half-Blood Prince. I personally feel that's the Empire Strikes Back of the franchise, but it's a good pick nonetheless.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Hey, Kirk, what's your Hogwarts house?
Every time I take the test, it's always Gryffindor, but I don't buy it.
Yeah,
I don't buy.
You're
those.
boring.
Where would you guys put me?
I see you as Gryffindor. I see that. Yeah. I can take that.
Yeah, it's correct.
That's what my son says, but it's like, yeah, everybody's boring. You just go Gryffindor if you have anywhere else to be. So I guess that's me. Rue, what is your number 66?
My number 66 is Guardians of the Galaxy. Wow. Okay. Starting to get into my wows. Guardians of the Galaxy is an absolutely amazing tentpole film for comic book movies, for the MCU, for movies in general. This was the one that everybody was looking in like, what the fuck are we doing? Looking at a talking tree and a talking raccoon and fucking Chris Pratt, and then went into it and watched the movie like, this is what the fuck we're doing with a tall ass tree, a talking raccoon, and Chris Pratt. It is hilarious. It is heartfelt. It is characters you absolutely love. It's the best version of Drax that we get, which I miss completely. And just it is so user friendly, and anybody can watch this film, that it overtakes a really, really not good villain. And I've heard arguments that like Lee Pace's take on really, because the movie is so James Gunny and so kind of wacky and out there, but heartfelt, he really wanted to go all out, bombastic, kind of low key Shakespearean with it. And I get the take. I just don't like it. I do say it does work when he gets to the dance off at the end, and that makes that hilarious. And that juxtaposition is cool. But his take on Ronan is just, I always felt Ronan should be more. Guardians of the Galaxy is one of the best MCU films, one of the best comic book movies, and that soundtrack is fucking amazing, up and down. I love this film.
Yeah, I really like this movie. It's probably top 5 for me. Top 5 MCU. I think it's great. I think it's kind of, if it's lost its luster just because it's been like redone so much. Because I mean, like without this movie, obviously this is where you get Thor Ragnarok, and you don't get Deadpool without this movie. I don't think you don't get Suicide Squad without this movie. I think it's been. I think that's just this kind of started that whole new subgenre of superhero movies, but I don't think it's ever been done as good as it was in this movie. The tone is perfect. that soundtrack and just how they incorporate that in. It's such a unique original idea. And I think it came at the perfect time for the MCU because the MCU maybe stale is a strong word, but it was getting kind of samey. And for them to break off with just ridiculous characters that nobody knew anything about, just taking a throw. I remember the meme when this came out. It was like, Marvel put out a movie about a talking tree before DC had a Wonder Woman movie. So like just the fact that they were willing to go like that, like balls out and take that chance with this, because this could have fell flat on its face. And there's a really strong chance of that happening, and it just works so well. So yeah, like I said, top 5, maybe top 3 MCU for me. It's still really solid. Everybody else on Guardians of the Galaxy.
I will say the first time I saw the dance off scene, I was like, this is a bit much. But the more I watched it, the more I was like, I get this. This is beautiful.
Guardians of the Galaxy. It's fine. I'm sorry, I've never been able to get fully on board with this movie in the way that a lot of people are. I think that it's just kind of like the humor just gets to be exhausting for me because it's just like every character quip throughout the entire movie, and it's that MCU style of humor that is just like it gets on my nerves. It needs to be applied in moderation, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't feel like it is. Also, I mean, an MCU movie with a villain problem? No way. It's not possible. But it's fine. Like, it's enjoyable enough in the way that most MCU movies are enjoyable on a basic level. I just don't think it ever gets above that basic level for me in the way that it does for everyone else.
I didn't know we were talking about Volume 2. You sure we're talking about Volume 1, right?
Wait, Scott, did you direct The Wolf of Wall Street? This is a great movie. It actually used to be on my list, and then I hadn't seen it since 2014. I'm like, it should make time for it, and I didn't. So I put Scooby-Doo 2 on here instead. not exactly, but this is a great movie. I have no qualm with you putting it on here. Just it might get on my list when I do my rewatch like later this year.
Oh, so my one problem with including this on the list is that I think Volume 2 is the best MCU movie.
Oh,
yeah!
Wow,
I think pretty easily for me.
Hey, Todd, what the fuck?
Oh my god!
I think this solves the villain problem, even though I don't think Lee Pace is particularly bad. I think it's genius to cast Kurt Russell as a character literally named Ego, who is his father, and it addresses the man-child nature of the character and really confronts everything about this character. All the action scenes are more interesting. It's more colorful. The whole thing, it just feels like he has more creative control on that second film. But this is a good one too. So whatever.
Take everything Scott just said and act like I said that about Volume 2 because it's like bottom 5 MCU movie.
Volume 2.
Oh, well, I think you should give it another chance.
I have. I've seen it. I've seen it at least 5 times.
The themes
I don't think you tell
Parenthood-
Rude to take IG movies a second chance. I think
Yeah, I've seen that a bunch.
Yeah.
Oh, can I just have one moment here?
Here.
The scene where everyone is guiding Baby Groot while the squid monster is attacking everyone, and how that ties into the theme of the movie, which is parenthood. It's just so much tighter than the
ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
But Jake, you see, but she plays basketball, right? And she dunks on Benjamin Bratt.
Shut up, Spence. I like
All
you
right.
getting angry now.
Amaru, what is your number 65?
All right. My 65 is The Bourne Identity. The Bourne Identity, Supremacy, and Ultimatum ultimately do kind of blend into one movie, but I'll say The Bourne Identity is the one that stands out the most out of the three. I think all three are amazing. This is a movie that got me to say, oh shit, Matt Damon can be a badass. I didn't realize that could happen. Maybe because I hadn't seen that many Matt Damon movies before him. But I just think this is a great action film, a great spy film. A lot of great little character actors and actors. You're like, oh shit, he was in this too. With Clive Owen, Adewale. Oh, I knew his name. I can
Triple A.
Okay, yep, Triple A in it. He does great in it. I just think it's just breakneck. It's greatly paced. The action is amazing. The first time I saw the dude take the pen out of his hand was like, oh shit, rewind that like 3, 4, 5 times. And it's just a good fucking action film. An above average, a way above average action film and spy film. Just went back and watched it like 3 times within that year.
Rue's number 65 movie of all time, above average.
Way above average. And favorite, not best.
No, this is a good movie. I don't love it. Again, this might suffer from the fact that it's kind of has like that Matrix effects where it's like been redone so much now. I mean, this is they were like people who made James Bond are like, hey, that's James Bond now. So it's fun. Yeah, the action scenes are great, and those fight scenes, like just like there's real visceral fight scenes. I get, the camera work, it's hit or miss for me. I don't love the story. I think I never really get that into the characters. Is the biggest takeaway for me. I think that's what doesn't do it for me. There's a lot of movies like this, like a movie like John Wick, like it has like the big actions, but also makes you care about the characters. This one never really did. That's my biggest hang up with it. But it's fine. Again, you continue your tradition of Sunday afternoon TNT movies.
Yes.
Everybody else on Bourne Identity.
I've only seen the Renner one.
Oh,
What?
I was 12 and it was playing in a theater, so I saw it.
You were just like wandering
Just
around a
went.
theater just without a ticket to anything, just like, oh,
Yeah,
I'll
you
just
must have
see
been so
what's up.
confused.
Basically, yeah.
This movie it's good. It's definitely solid. It's just like the epitome of like early 2000s blockbuster action movie. Like it has that vibe to it. It's very solidly made. You didn't mention Chris Cooper, who like is just always
great.
elite supporting actor. It's just not like that super memorable of a movie to me. I do think that if I had to, for my memory at least, because it's been a while since I watched it, I do think I like the third one the most. But I think the movie is solid. It just like has a really dense plot that doesn't make it super like rewatchable or memorable for me.
Yeah, I had to pop out for a second there, Rue. When you were saying you didn't see Damon as a action hero, did you bring up the Seth Rogen quote from 40-Year-Old Virgin?
I did.
Okay. Great. So I think that all the best Damon roles are kind of deconstructions of the all-American hero, and this is one of the better ones. My favorite is actually Supremacy. So we have 3 people on this show who have 3 different favorite, I guess 4 different favorite Bourne movies because you've only seen.
The word looking for is by default.
Yeah, it's by default. Okay, yeah. So I love the Robert Ludlum series too. So good pick, Cher.
All right.
All right. Spence, that takes us to your 64. 64.
Rue, yes.
Or
My
Rue. I'm sorry.
Speaking of above average TNT movies from the early 2000s, I don't know why the first time I watched this movie, I just took to it and never let go, but I absolutely love it. It's 2002's The Count of Monte Cristo. I mentioned before that my biggest pet peeve in a movie that really gets me is like when somebody's accused of something that they didn't do, and it really just like pisses me off, but gets me into the movie. So my most satisfying thing to watch is a good revenge story, and this to me is just the epitome of movies I like and a good revenge story. Just a action adventure movie to get into, characters that you like, comedy that hits. Because Luis Guzman is a beautiful, hilarious man, and his timing in this movie is great. Richard Harris is a gem of a man. I think this was his last film before he passed away. And I love him in this film. Guy Pearce is doing exactly what he always is supposed to do and being really creepy. But for me, again, epitome of everything that has kind of been on my list up to this point. Fun action adventure with characters you like. A young Henry Cavill and then add on the fact that I really, really love I really love revenge movies and getting your revenge for being framed for something. And I am just a kid in a candy store eating popcorn and eating up every second of that film. I actually watched this movie before reading the books because as a kid, I was not a fan of reading books, and it made me go read the book, which is definitely better because books usually are. But we're gonna continue on with my TNT CBS special right here. Let's go.
Haven't seen 2002 Count of Monte Cristo yet. I've seen the original. The original's pretty good. Don't know much about this. I did not expect to hear Luis Guzman humor as part of it. That
Hilarious.
Doesn't feel like Count of Monte Cristo to me. The comic relief. But yeah, this. I mean, I'm sure with a lot of movies on your list, I'm sure this is inoffensive. I'm sure it's a good way to spend 2 hours.
Very inoffensive.
So if when I get a chance, I'll check it out. Everybody else on this movie, maybe I'll see it.
Oh yeah, Luis Guzman, my favorite. Oh god, he's
character actor.
He's waiting IMDb, only for Koho backstage. I haven't seen it.
Oh yeah, it's like one of my I love this book. I haven't seen this, but Django Unchained is weirdly kind of like a parallel to this in a lot of ways. The story, there's a lot of they even reference the author Alexander Dumas in that movie, and yeah, I don't know. I gotta see this one. This one has Jesus in it from Passion of the Christ. What's his name?
Jim Caviezel.
That guy's got some abs.
He does.
Well, he was Jesus, so
he's got those Jesus abs. To quote "It's Always Sunny."
Somebody confirm this for me because it blew my mind when I heard it, and I think I'm right about it. Alexander Dumas was black, right?
Yes.
Yes. Lovely. Let's go. More points.
All right, Jake, you get to keep talking. Give us your 67.
Shit. My number 67 is Preston Sturges, Unfaithfully Yours. Guessing no one here has seen it. Preston Sturges, you might know him from he directed Sullivan's Travels or The Lady Eve. This one's Rex Harrison plays a composer who finds out that his wife is cheating on him. He composes 3 different musical numbers in it and imagines 3 different ways that he could handle the situation of his wife's infidelity. One of them involving murdering her, one forgiveness, and one suicide. It swaps genres all the way through, which is kind of crazy for 1948 to swap between all these genres. It's a lot about the difference between the purity of artistic output and reality. And there's a lot that you can read into if you want to. It's very autobiographical from Preston Sturges. But I won't belabor this movie since no one here's seen it, right?
I'm sorry. I watch it for the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
I found it free on YouTube. I was like, hey, I'll watch this. No, it's an interesting movie. You're right. It does show up genres. And I felt like it. Break it down act by act. The first act takes a while to get going and kind of decide what the movie's going to be. I kind of wish it got the meat of it. The best part is the fantasy sequences in the middle, that middle half hour. I think were great. I think it takes a little too long to get there. And I feel like the first one, like when they trick you with the first one, basically, spoiler alert, was really interesting. I think they kind of, after that, they give that conceit away. They kind of seems like it felt like they sped through the other ones. Kind of wish they would have taken more time with that, the whole middle part. And then the end was my least favorite because it kind of devolves into a kind of just like the slapstick comedy, like just gets really ridiculous. And I understand, like you said, like the point was like his imagination, like how it went perfectly in his imagination versus how it went in reality. But I think there's a more clever way to do that. Like I wish they would have done just more like set up payoff instead of just having him like fall through a chair a couple times. Overall, not a terrible movie. It was fun, but like I said, just took a little while to get there. Has anybody else seen this?
Sorry.
All right. Okay. Then Jake, we're going to move on to your number 66.
I was wondering in the chat, you posted a picture of the moose mug, and I posted a picture of Huggies diapers.
I
And
know
was
what it's
wondering
going to be. Yeah,
what is it?
Raising Arizona, right?
It is Raising
There it
Arizona.
is.
There we go. This is the Coen brothers second movie behind Blood Simple. This is where they got a little bit of money, and they were basically trying to make a crowd pleaser, which is what this is. Basically, Tarantino, I think, put it best that he said there was a time before Evil Dead 2 and Raising Arizona, and there was a time after. And it was after you saw Raising Arizona, it was like, why would anyone ever shoot a movie the old way again? And that's basically how I feel about this movie. Nicolas Cage and Holly Hunter are both fantastic. I think that they balance the cartoonishness of these characters with the humanity of these characters like no other actors really could. You see them in Holly Hunter in the Incredibles movies and Nicolas Cage recently in the Into the Spider-Verse, doing actual cartoon characters, and they're real standouts in that as well. But then again, at the end of this movie, when Holly Hunter is saying, "Can I hold the baby one more time?" I am always fighting tears at the end of this silly, silly movie. So I love Raising Arizona. What do you guys think of Raising Arizona?
Well, as someone who's had it on their list, it's a really good movie. Wait, never mind. I'm gonna shut the fuck up. I thought I had it. I didn't. I cut it off.
I was gonna say,
how does this show work?
Fuck you, Scott.
Yeah, I rewatched this for the first time. I saw this when this came out as a kid, and it was like just weird. Like, when you're like 8, 9 years old watching this and you don't know anything about movies, don't know who the Coen brothers are, you're not going to get it. And it was just way out there. I liked it because how crazy it was, but I really didn't realize what was going on. Rewatched it later as an adult. Yeah, you're right. It's just so kinetic, and just the use of like the cam work and the music and everything. And yeah, it is grounded. Like, you feel like it's not like a Nicolas Cage character you get now where it's just like all craziness and all like, look how ridiculous I'm being. It has that, definitely. But there's a real humanity to the character, and with his relationship with Holly Hunter is really strong. It's really sweet. Or they're just both really sweet, likable characters. So you're on board with everything they're doing. So yeah, not my favorite Coen, but it's not a bad pick. Everybody, Spence, you want to talk about Raising Arizona now? Because you can.
Oh my god, I just got back. I refilled my drink. It's a really good movie. It's my second favorite of their comedies. I think it's really fun. It's honestly the movie that actually it sort of got me into the Coens from a comedy perspective. I didn't like the first one I saw, namely Big Lebowski, and then I saw this like, oh wait, no, they're actually like really incredible, and I love their sense of humor. The movie still sucks, Scott. I'm not sorry. I love Nick Cage. Nick Cage is a god.
That's just like your opinion, man.
Write your own jokes next time.
Points.
This is an incredible pick.
I'm ashamed because Jake and Spence and I were on the Crime Comedies episode, and this was brought up. And at the time, I was like, I gotta watch this because it was on both of their lists. And yeah, still gotta do that.
As do I. I've never seen this film.
So Scott, they pick up a state, right, and they lift it, and that's the movie.
All right, Jake.
Scott, how did you know that it was Raising Arizona if the Huggies thing? Did you Google Huggies movie?
Because I play movie trivia and I have a weird brain.
This man's played for a talent.
Don't miss.
No, he's
Jake, what's your 65?
65. Someone already picked it on here. It's another Coen movie, a very different tone. Inside Llewyn Davis. Yeah, Inside Llewyn Davis. Spence, you already picked it. I trust that you're going to talk about certain things, but I think that a lot of people talk about how this is about artistic output, when really I think this is about like kind of everything. I think the Coens are really making a movie about how people are incapable of radical change, and most people will go on their days repeating the same basic patterns, never getting anywhere, and maybe hopefully someday recognizing the fault in their ways, but not necessarily making any sort of significant stamp on the world. And as brutal as that is, there's also I feel some optimism at the end of this movie. I feel like Lewin learned something at the end of this movie, even though it's a repeating loop. I don't know. I really need like an hour to talk about this movie because I think it's very deep. I think there's a lot going on. But Spence, since you had it lower on your list, what do you think?
If you need an hour for your 65, that scares me. It's my favorite Coen Brothers film. Again, I like the dramatic work a lot, and for me, like I think it works for similar reasons as Jake just said differently. I think the idea of just trapping yourself in a cycle, just like the cyclical nature of time, and just that sort of tied to your depression, your lack of work, and how that sort of impacts your life around you is so interesting. It just sits in my mind a lot, as well as I think it's given a chance to perform some incredible music. Oscar Isaac should sing more. That man,
Yes.
very attractive with singing voice, but also this movie has the best cat, Ulysses, Stan Ulysses. Just great movie.
Not my favorite Coen Brothers. Still not there, but I like this movie. I think it feels a lot different from what they've done before. It has like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like a Coen Brothers world that this movie takes place in, but it's still really solid, really good story. I love movies like this where you have a character kind of just moving through their world, and you have like, he goes to that dinner party with his friends. He has a scene with Justin Timberlake and Adam Driver and the Please Mr. Kennedy. That scene's great. And then he has just going from character to character and like situation to situation, and just like living that life. Roland Turner, I think, is my favorite John Goodman Coen Brothers character. Just for the little bit of movie he's in, he's my favorite part of that. You'll find this interesting. And when he's going on about the voodoo curse, like just real matter of factly talking about how he's going to put a voodoo curse on him, that's my favorite scene of the entire movie. He steals the show for me, but it's solid. And like the guy said, like just like what it says about like life and art, and what's the point to it all, and what are you going to do with it? Really solid. I mean, it's rewatchable. I can go back and watch this again and get a lot more out of it. Scott and Amr, you do not have this on your list. Tell me why.
We might have the same answer, Rue.
Yeah,
why are we?
Coen Brothers.
Can we? I would love if we would stop talking about the Coen Brothers movies that I haven't seen, because there's only a few of them, and yet we've somehow hit 2 of them in the last 2. Can we talk about Our Brother, Where Art Thou? I know we're going to at some point. But yeah.
We might talk about one more. I don't know. Who knows?
God damn it! Separate them. Why are they next to each other?
Yeah, Coen Brothers are cool. Just I only hit with some of them, so not this one. Haven't seen it yet.
All right. That takes us to Jake's number 64.
Yeah. At number 64, I have Hannah and Her Sisters. Unfortunately, directed and written by a monster. This one, though, the thing that I love about this movie is that every character feels so incredibly fleshed out. It feels like every character contains multitudes in this movie. So there's so many characters in this movie, and this movie is so dense that I'll just focus on the Oscar-winning performance by Michael Caine, where the movie basically opens at this Thanksgiving party, appropriate because it's Canadian Thanksgiving last weekend, and Michael Caine gives this monologue voiceover about how he is in love with Hannah's sister. And so many of this movie has so many voiceover moments where the characters say what they couldn't say in reality. They share all of their insecurities, everything that's shitty about them. And Michael Caine, his pursuit of his wife's sister is so predatory and gross. And the movie just kind of owns how upsetting this dynamic is. and it's really just something you need to see. Yeah, this is my favorite Woody Allen movie. Anyone here? Oh, Kirk, what did you think of this? Do you see this?
I have not seen it yet, and it's just interesting. It's an interesting pick because honestly, and I'm not saying this to knock you, but this is the first time I think I've heard anyone say Hannah and her sisters out loud since 1986. This is not a movie that gets talked about a lot, so it sounds interesting. I like Woody Allen stuff. I don't love it, like I don't pursue it actively, but when I watch it, like there's anytime I see it, I'm usually like, oh, that was pretty good. So it sounds like an interesting story. I'm just looking here. So it's a really strong cast. My favorite factoid about this movie is that Michael Caine could not show up to accept his Oscar because he was on the set of Jaws: The Revenge. So that's.
But have you heard Michael Caine's quote about why he did Jaws: The Revenge?
I know he does most of his movies based on where he's shooting at.
It's basically something like about why, like the house it bought was nice or something like that. Just basically saying it was
Dolphin Tale 2, great house.
Anybody else seen Hannah and her sisters?
No, but the fact that you say this is his best film, or at least your favorite of his, concerns me. Because Purple Rose of Cairo is like one of the greatest screenplays ever.
Oh, I love Purple Rose. Yeah.
But it's not on here, so I'm angry.
You haven't seen Hannah and her sisters, so how could you?
I could be angry either way, just unjustified.
I've also seen quite a few of the director's films, and some of them I like, some of them I am not a huge fan of. I haven't seen this one yet, unfortunately, but I hear I don't necessarily agree with Kirk. Like I do hear about. Yeah, maybe there you go. I think that's the right
Unacceptable!
I do hear about this movie though as being one of his better ones. I will disagree with Kirk on that point. I still do hear about that, so I bet I'd probably like it.
This director is not really my jam. But Ants, I love Ants. Great movie. At least when I was a kid.
Yeah, who was gonna do it?
All right, that takes us to top threes for the night. We're going to go to Scott for your number 63.
We're going to move right on to Spence. My 63 is The Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Yikes.
All right, Spence, your number 63.
Honestly, Scott, you might yikes this back. My 63 is Full Metal Jacket.
Ooh.
This is incredible. This is actually, honestly, this is one of the first times growing up I'm like, maybe I have hot takes. Because I had no friends who were like, oh yeah, you know what? I love the second half of this film. And you know what? They're on drugs. Second half of this movie is still incredible. I think this is actually no, I think I can say it because it was on Wireless already. This is my favorite war film of all time. I think that Kubrick just does this great job of telling how like depraved and horrifying Vietnam was for all of the soldiers really fighting in it, and how it's just like this endless cycle of losing your humanity and your sanity. It's haunting, really. Even when you see them get to Vietnam and see how they're sort of like that first scene with the sort of just like here's soldier culture. It's still like this depravity, even in the jovialness of it, and then when it comes down to both like paralleling Joker's story with seeing the world around him impacted by war, first with Private Pyle, and then with the sniper at the end, followed by one of the best final scenes of all time with them singing the fucking Mickey Mouse Clubhouse song, marching through just a burning city. I think it's insanely good. Kubrick's only made one bad movie for me so far. Everything else has been absolutely insanely good.
What's the bad movie?
Lolita. I fucking hate it. Just Lolita.
Oh, okay. Not okay, but understood. I don't think the second half of this movie is bad. I just think that the first half is so great and it's so iconic, and second half doesn't have Arlie Erby, and there's just so much going on in that first half that's just so good that the second half can't. And I mean, the first half is its own movie, and then you start the next movie. It's not as good as the first. and it's a little bit of a letdown. So I understand why people complain about it. I don't hate it, but I understand why people feel the way they do. But yeah, it's Kubrick when he does war films, he does this and Paths of Glory, and then what was that? I can't recall that early film he did.
The Killing?
No. What was that? I'll
Fear
look
and
it up.
Desire?
Spartacus?
No, it was a war film. But anyway, his take on war and just like the realism, Fear and Desire. Yeah, that was Fear and Desire. I'm sorry. Just the way he does it, like just like the depravity is a good word for it, like that lack of humanity. But he puts like such a like realistic spin, like just prison's like, yeah, this is it. This is what this life is like. This is what this world is. And I just love his take on it. And I think honestly, I think the first half feels more like a Kubrick movie, which is probably why people like it better. The second half feels a little less Kubricky. But yeah, I mean the whole thing's great. It's a great pick, great movie. Everybody else on Full Jacket.
Masterpiece. Yeah, I don't know. I should have put this on my list. Probably. I'm gonna give it full. Yeah, I'll give you full points. I love the way that like everyone talks in code so much in this movie. They almost talk in code in this movie more than like a Clockwork Orange. They talk in code. The way that there's a whole different language to war and violence in Kubrick movies. It's similar to the way in The Godfather they talk about violence. It's all coded. It's all subtextual. They have to push violence, violent language down to they have to code it to say it out loud. Basically, that's what I love. One of the things that I love about this movie.
Here's the thing, like, Stanley Kubrick, for whatever reason, is one of the only auteurs where I just haven't been able to emotionally connect really to his movies, besides the one that I already had on my list that was Yikes. I recognize the technical mastery of a lot of his movies, although, again, I do kind of think this one is inconsistent. Um, but just I'm left cold kind of at the end of a lot of his most revered films. And so unfortunately that's kind of where I come down on Full Metal Jacket as well. I'll get to talk about the one that I like the most eventually. Um, but I can't fault you for having to pick again. Like, he's obviously a master filmmaker. He's just not for me.
I've never seen it.
All right. Ruud, tell us about what you have seen with your number 63.
All right. A movie I've seen plenty of times. One of my favorite sports movies ever. Arguably one of the best R-rated sports movies ever. Comedy-wise, at least. Major League. This is the team you root for. It is the ragtag group of characters that are all hilarious, that are all just fun, and even the dicks like Roger Dorn. In the end, you just love. I love this movie so much. I have loved every installment, even back to the minors, just because I love following these types of characters. Pedro Serrano is hilarious. Dennis Haysbert being able to show some comedy chops has always been something that was fascinating to me. It also puts in a love story a little bit with Tom Berenger's character that gives you that really great scene when he low-key is a stalker and follows her to her house, but then ends up having dinner with the really douchey, posh individual she's with now, and you're even more trying to root for him to, again, low-key be a stalker, but you don't care because it's about the sports and trying to overthrow the owner who's trying to sell the team to Miami. You got Charlie Sheen doing Wild Thing. Wesley Snipes is great. I am very upset that they replaced him with Omar Epps. But when he finds out he's on the team and he goes outside and he just does the quiet little dance, it's hilarious. And I am so glad that it is R-rated, just because being able to go there with the profanity and just more of an over-the-top R-rated jokes make this so much of a more enjoyable watch than if it was PG-13.
Yeah, this movie is a lot of fun. This is a great sports movie. This is a great, like, structure for sports movie, where it has so many characters, but they all have a purpose. They're all given something to do. They're all given enough time. There's no throwaway characters. There's no like generic. Like you don't look at them and say, "Oh, he's that guy in a sports movie." Like they all have like a little more depth to them than that. And even like the secondary side characters, like the old pitcher, he's like, "Tell me, Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball." Like those kind of moments are just so good. And yeah, the idea, it was so smart to make the, even though Charlie Sheen's the main character, to have Rene Russo and Jake Taylor be like the heart of the movie, to give you something to really connect to, because Sheen's character is not somebody you're going to like be like really connected to or really feel like emotion towards. So they put those guys in there to give you that. So it's a really well made, well crafted. It's funny, like you said, it's really funny. This a lot of sports movies try to do this and they fail. Even though it's about a Cleveland team, which I can't support, it's still a really good movie.
Yeah, and Bob, nice, and Bob
canceled.
Bob Uecker is the best color man in all of them.
Oh yeah, Uecker's great.
Absolutely,
Uecker is so good,
just
so real. Anybody who's like a fan of just a forever bad sports team can connect with that character so much.
So of course well, we're in the same boat there, Kurt. Of course I'm a fan of this movie, being a diehard Cleveland Indians fan as I am. At the same time, I do think that it is disappointing to me that even in the movies, when they can make up whatever they want to happen, they don't let the Indians win the World Series, right? They just win the American League East, which, like, okay, cool, great. But I've seen the Indians win the division before. I'm never going to see them win the World Series. Let's just be perfectly honest. I'll be dead.
So it's like me with any New York Knicks film ever.
Yeah, at least give it to me in a movie, right? They can't even do that. But other than that, the movie is great. And yeah, Wesley Snipes for me is the standout.
Don't you just love sports films about sports?
Yes.
I have not seen this.
Amazing.
Yeah, I watched this a bunch when I was a kid. I can't really speak to it.
All right, speak to your number 63 then.
Yeah, my number 63 is Carol. Todd Haynes's beautiful romance movie. The thing that I think that Carol understands about romance is that there is so much tension wrapped up in not knowing how the other person is going to react to your feelings, and it's in a queer romance, those emotions are so much more heightened because Todd Haynes never forgets that their love is like a crime in this time, and somehow that's universally relatable in a weird way, that the stakes just feel impossibly high. The chemistry between Carol and Therese is off the charts as far as I'm concerned. The moment that they make eye contact, you're 100% on board. This film it's filmed in 16 millimeter. I think it's one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen. I just watch this movie constantly because of how beautiful it is. The soundtrack, the look of it, the grain, it's just this used to be a movie that I would watch to like relax, to like calm down, to bring me down. My wife knows I've watched this movie like 500 times since we've been together. My biggest regret is not seeing this in theaters. So yeah, Carol. What do you think of Carol?
Carol, I have not seen. I'm curious how I'd feel about it because I love Cate Blanchett, but Rooney Mara is real hit or miss for me. So I have no take on this as of yet. Anybody else have an opinion on Carol?
This movie's amazing. It was probably in my next 30 or 40 out of my top 100, if we're being honest. It's close. Todd Haynes is a brilliant filmmaker. I think, yeah, like definitely the look of the film. Carter Burwell's score, like I don't know how Carter Burwell does not have an Oscar. Like it's something that enough people don't talk about because like a ton of my favorite scores, like not just this one, but are from Carter Burwell. His work in the Coen Brothers movies is always great. Yeah, I mean, it's such a great score in this movie too, though it might be his finest work. And like you're so right that like it does feel like their relationship feels like a crime. It does a great job of portraying in that time the way people would have viewed this relationship. So like because it does such a great job of like building the world, like your heart is like pounding even when they're just like looking at each other. Like it does feel like a thriller almost at times because of how well they're able to set up the world and what great context you have for what is at stake in this whole relationship. So great movie. And I again I have to disagree with Kirk. I think Rooney Mara is always great for me. Like I'm a big fan of hers.
So unlike Jake, I did get to see this in theaters with my parents. It was the last time that I saw it, so it's a little tainted. I have some space. I'm probably gonna watch it this Christmas so I can have a new opinion because I probably like it a lot more this time. But right now, it's a little sour.
We can keep going. It's another one I haven't seen.
All right, takes us to 62s. Scott, what is your number 62?
All right. Well, I said One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and there was no yikes. I said The Graduate, and there was no yikes. There's going to be bloodshed on the stream tonight if there's no yikes for Goodfellas.
That's textbook pandering.
If I say yikes, do I not get killed?
No.
Unbelievable.
Fuck the Goodfellas.
Unacceptable!
Fuck
Let's
you,
back it up,
Koho. I
boys.
haven't even seen this.
We're going home early tonight. Goodfellas. Wow, what is there to say? This is my favorite Scorsese movie. I know that it's a cliche, but sometimes cliches are cliches for a reason. I think this is just the perfect synthesis of who he is as a filmmaker. I mean, look, I love stuff like Taxi Driver and Raging Bull. Like they're technically like probably flawless movies, but in terms of what do I want to go back and watch, it's Goodfellas because I think, of course, all of his, so many of Scorsese's movies have that sting in the tail at the end, and Goodfellas definitely has the sting in the tail at the end for sure. But he also, you know, the ups and downs of this life of crime are very well measured, and we as the audience are also feeling the ups and downs. And when Henry Hill is having a great time and he's living large, so are we. We're having just an entertaining time watching the movie because Scorsese, like his movies at their best, just have that energy about them. They just have that vitality, and they just feel so alive in a way that few filmmakers are able to capture. But also, when the sting in the tail, which is necessary, comes at the end, we feel it all the more strongly, I think, because of how engaging the film has been up to that point. It's just such an entertaining movie. The runtime flies by. I actually got to see this recently in theaters when I was in New York. They showed it at the Film Forum on Saturday, and we went in a packed screening on Saturday afternoon. It was like perfect environment to see the movie. Everyone was still like just loving it, like it was 1990 all over again. There's great humor in the movie, like when the scene that is the top of the mountain and that everyone was into was when they go to Joe Pesci's mom's house for dinner after they've whacked Billy Bats and he's in the trunk of the car, and she shows him the painting of the dogs, and it's one of them goes the other, one of them goes one way, one of them goes the other way. Hilarious. And yeah, great performances. Obviously, Joe Pesci, just like that mercurial energy that he brings, it was a very well earned Oscar-winning performance, I think, from him in the movie. I think Ray Liotta is very, very good as well. Yeah, it's a perfect crime epic that, like I said, the emotions I think are so well measured. Like it really puts you in that world, and you're feeling what the characters are feeling, and I think it ends in the only. Of course, it's not a happy ending, but it ends in the only way that it it could end, and that Scorsese's movies often do end because he's not trying to glamorize this, despite what you might see on the internet. There's no attempt there. And if anyone comes away from this movie feeling like a life of crime is what they need to be doing in their future, I would suggest seeing it again and perhaps reading it correctly this time. But it's a flawless movie. Again, I can't believe nobody had Goodfellas.
I know. I mean, Rags to Riches is the theme song for the series for a reason.
Yeah.
This is Scorsese's best movie without question. I've said this before. I think this was the movie. I mean, masterpiece is overused as a phrase, but this is literally his masterpiece. I feel like this is the movie that his entire career up to this point was building up to. And though he's made some great movies since, he's never reached this height. This is the pinnacle of his career. None of the directors I think you could look at and just say this is the height, and they never got any higher. The way the energy this movie has, the way that's that theme song. Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to be a gangster, and just bam, it goes, and it just never really slows down.
Best use of voiceover in any movie ever, in my opinion.
And just the way it tells that story, and like you said, it does. And a lot of people complain about Liotta's performance. I love Liotta's performance. I think he does a great job. Just his performance and the way it's written, the way everything's done, just brings you into that world and makes it feel normal. It doesn't glamorize it, but you can see how it's like that's just their life, and this is how things are for them. And I think that goes even like the Copa scene, the over-the-shoulder shot scene, where he's taking Karen in, and that scene is so captivating that it makes you feel how she feels and how she could get sucked into that world. And just little moments like the prison scene when they're cooking in the prison, or at the towards the end when he's running from the helicopters, and that whole day, that whole sequence is fantastic. And he's like, "Yeah, I had the helicopters, I had to sell the guns, but I bought these really nice cutlet size making the sauce, and we had to stir the sauce." He keeps cutting back to that, like just the focus on that, and just how just everything else. I got to get to drugs, and it's all just bang, bang, bang. It's so mundane for him. It is a perfect movie. It's so. The performance is so good. The soundtrack is so good. The directing, the editing, there's nothing wrong about this movie. I don't know why no one else had on the list. Try to explain it to me, please.
Okay, so I have like two movies that come to mind when I'm like movies that you never want to watch again. And it's like The Goodfellas and Back to the Future. And I love both those movies, but it's just like I've just watched the shit out of.
Hey, Todd? What the fuck?
It's just, who have those? Who doesn't have these? Who among us who loves movies doesn't have a movie that they truly love, but they've just sucked all the juice out of it? And it's like, no, put on Casino instead. Put on something else, like anything else. That's how I feel about this. So, is The Goodfellas a perfect movie? Maybe. Do I want to watch it right now? No, I've seen that 1,000 times. I get it. I don't know. Everyone has to have one of these. I don't understand.
Okay, so I only connect to what you're saying a little bit, Jake. But the reason why is because as I got older in my life, I realized more and more the more I watch perfect movies like this, like Goodfellas, because this is a perfect movie, and that helicopter scene is amazing. The more and more I realize I am not the hugest fan of gangster films. They're just not films for me to rewatch. They're films that I want to see one time because they're amazing and they're great, but they're not ones that I'm like, all right. However, Goodfellas was on my list for a bit because it's one of the only ones that I've actually enjoyed, or overly enjoyed. I've enjoyed if I've seen other ones again, but it's the ones I've overly enjoyed going back and watching again. But just in general, gangster films are not my top genre. But this film is amazing.
So, this is a 4-star movie. It's a really good movie. I'm not the biggest fan of Scorsese. He doesn't make movies for me. At the end of the day, I prefer a lot of films other than this. Not that this isn't bad. I am never going to truly love this, but I'm also a little bit like Rue, where I think crime in general isn't my bag. But also, I think perfect movies like this, there's so much weight that you have to love it, and that going into a film like fuck you, Kirk. The weight of going in like that is just really hard to sort of sit with. So I haven't rewatched this in like a decade because I've been so scared of rewatching and possibly liking it less. Like honestly, I'd rather watch After Hours or The Departed or Silence because you know what? If I don't like those, I won't be killed.
Here's a score I give you on your verbal gymnastics. Work your way through talking about that movie.
Pretty good.
The Russian judge over here.
All right. Spence, speaking of you and
What's better
movies
than
you enjoy, Scott had Goodfellas for his number 62.
You know how we're like really good friends and how we only like agree on movies. I'm gonna give you a movie that even Mike Hanley thought was too much. Dude Bro Party Massacre 3 is in fact my favorite horror comedy of all time. Because you know what? It's barely a horror movie. Little hints. There aren't 2 films before this. They just made 3 because this was destroyed by the Reagan administration for putting him in a bad light when it's about a group of frat bros who have to kill a 3rd generation of a serial killer who's trying to take him down. But first, they get the hero of the first 2 movies. Oh, no. And this is so much fun. This is so much ridiculous, dumb fun. If you want, like a reason to watch this movie, like why it's awesome, the 2 kills to note about. One is like a little one in a flashback scene of a dude's dancing around in a puddle with a bunch of sorority girls. And then a telephone pole gets chopped down. And it gets hit by a wire, and they all get shocked, except for him, because he's wearing rubber boots. And then he trips over like a leg, and then he fucking shocks and dies. And the other one is when the evil villain, Motherface, goes to kill one of the dudes. She puts a beer tap in his head and like pumps out the blood, and he's like, and then it's like, oh god, it's so dumb. It is so fucking dumb, and I love it so much. This is the most anti-Kirk movie possible. I wish I played you an console so I could give you this shit and make you sit through it again because it's fucking rad.
I watched this movie for the show, obviously. Now, we're talking about this in the light of Goodfellas, so I mean, take everything with a grain of salt. I didn't hate it. It's actually, like I love the framing device. I don't know, Spitz, I don't think you mentioned this. Like the conceit of the movie is that you're watching somebody's recording off of cable, like off a basic cable channel, and so like you'll get cut, like the commercials will start and like it'll cut out, like they pause it, and then like they don't get back in time, so you get the other commercial. I'm old enough to have nostalgia for that and remember doing that. So, and it has like that quality, that look to it, like an old, like worn out VHS look. So I like that. This movie does, like, I'm not a big fan of parody. I think this movie does parody the way it should be done. Like it doesn't like it's not like, hey, remember this, or it's not like Scream where it's like patting itself on the back for being so meta. It's like it just does its own thing, but it's like very like it's a very well done parody of like 80s horror, like especially sequels. So like Spence said, it's like the 3rd one, even though there's the only movie in the way it like should do the flashbacks. The first act is great. I was cracking up the entire time in the first act. The first act's hilarious. Like bang, 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 kill, 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 joke, joke, joke. Real quick Larry King cameo out of nowhere. My only problem was that the rest of the movie didn't really keep up the energy of the first act. There were some still good moments on it, but if it would have kept pace through the whole movie, this could have been like a 4-star movie for me because I love that first act. I didn't hate the rest of it. It slowed down for me. I like weird stuff sometimes. But yeah, surprisingly, this is the surprise of the show so far. I didn't hate this. Should it be in your top 100? Absolutely not. That's insane, and you're insane for having this in your top 100.
Fuck you.
But it's a fun, weird movie.
I would also say, just for, I think Scott and also Jake, and I forget which one you mentioned it. This movie has their own version of like the Cheddar Goblins from Mandy, where they have like a random commercial about like these, like I think they are like pizza goblins or something. It's out of nowhere, but there's a weird connection that the 2 movies have.
Oh yeah, no, this sounds kind of awesome. I did look it up in the meantime. It has like 10 writers and 3 directors.
Yeah.
I don't know. I added it to my list.
Sounds fun. Haven't seen it.
Patton Oswalt's in it.
Not bad. When you said "dude, bro," I was waiting for you to get to the title of the movie, and I was like, "Oh shit, that's the title of the." Okay, cool. Suspense pick. There you go.
It feels
Not
very
a
much
me
like
movie.
just like a local independent like movie. Like if you went to like a 48-hour film festival type thing. That's what this feels like. And like I have fun with those. I think those are just interesting to watch. And yeah, it wasn't awful. So congratulations,
Cool.
Spence. It wasn't awful. Rue, what is your number 62?
My number 62 is a yikes from an earlier movie. Last week, I think. Collateral.
Yes.
Yeah. So I really like the fact that Michael Mann decided to shoot the movie he did because the movie feels like dirty downtown LA. And he wanted to make it look like dirty downtown LA. And it's just, it's for me, it's at least starts off really grounded. It introduces Jay Fox's character to get you into him. And then comes what I think is Tom Cruise's best role. I think this is for me, this is Tom Cruise at his best. I love him being evil and straightforward and to the point and a badass. And I think it's intense. And just a ride you want to continue to go on to wonder what the fuck are we going? How the hell are we ending this? When Jamie Foxx goes in the club and pretends to be Max, you're so scared for him at the beginning, but then when he clicks into it and gets to actually do it, you're like, good for you. Hell yeah, let's go. And I think the most badass, like, Tom Cruise is killing this role is how and when he kills the jazz singer in the jazz club. Just having that back and forth conversation, real cool, real nice. And like some shit's going to hit the fan. And then all of a sudden, all right, you're dead. I love that. I love Cruise in this movie. I think Jamie Foxx plays off him really well. I will say the Jada Pinkett Smith part in the movie is it's not bad. I actually like that as like the love interest for Jamie Foxx, but I always forget about it. And then when it comes back, I'm like, oh yeah, this is cool. This is all right. But I'm into the Jamie Foxx and Tom Cruise pairing more than Jada Pinkett Smith in it. Again, not bad, but the one I forget about every time I watch it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is a part of the movie. Cool. But I really love Collateral.
Yeah, I think you did a really good job of talking about why Jamie Foxx and Tom Cruise are so good in this movie. Someone brought up that submarine movie with Denzel and
Crimson Tide, yeah.
Scott. Yeah, it was Denzel and who was the other?
Gene Hackman.
Gene Hackman. And yeah, and seeing two movie stars together like that, when it works, it just works. So I will just I think you're cutting Jada Pinkett Smith a little short because she literally gets into a guy's cab and kind of has to sell that like she's into this cab driver who's like not high status in this movie. He's not a cool guy in this movie. He's a very, very normal person. And Jamie Foxx plays a normal person incredibly well for a role that was originally written for Adam Sandler, actually, which is surprising to think about. But that just shows how skilled Jamie Foxx is, because we all know Jamie Foxx is the coolest motherfucker in the world. And then he could also play a role that was written for Adam Sandler. So that's just props to Jamie Foxx. Jada Pinkett Smith, the reason that I think she's incredible in this is because she actually manages to sell that. And it's really important that you remember that she was talking to him at the start of the movie because you think it's just for thematic reasons. Like at the end of the movie, he's just going to end up calling Jada Pinkett Smith and saying like, "Hey, let's go on a date," and you're going to be like, "Oh yeah, he learned how to, for lack of a better term, like man up and take the initiative and do this thing. But she's actually a plot mechanic. She also is a plot mechanic in the movie, where you need to know that she is like a corporate lawyer or something like that, where it's actually very important to the plot that you remember Jada Pinkett Smith from the start, and you also buy their romantic relationship. And I think that she's already appeared in Ali, another Michael Mann movie, and maybe one more if I'm remembering correctly. But you hire a less talented actress than Jada Pinkett Smith, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah. And I think for me, the fact that cab ride conversation was actually so good, and then I continuously forget her the rest of the film until the end, and you're like, oh
Yes.
yeah, she's a very critical
Yes.
plot point.
Yeah.
That's why I'm a little only a little less on Jada Pinkett, because she's so important to the film that after that scene, I'm like, oh yeah, she is in this movie. Oh yeah, cool.
Fair.
It's been a while since I've seen it, and I made the same mistake I made with another movie last week. I thought this was getting yikes again, so I didn't rewatch it yet. I got to keep better track of that. But it's my favorite part about this movie is Tom Cruise. And I'm not the world's biggest Tom Cruise fan. I think he's fine. Like, he doesn't make movies better or worse for me. Like, his good movies are good, his bad movies are bad. That's just what it is. But in this one, I love that character. First of all, just how hard it is to draw a beat on him. And it takes a long time to figure out how you should feel about him. And yeah, I think you're on that ride along with Jamie Foxx, where it's because he's speaking so much truth to him. He's like an evil Jiminy Cricket. There's so much truth coming out of him. As cruel as it is and as cruel as he is, he's telling him what he needs to hear. And I really like that aspect. I love the relationship between those two. I think the third act kind of devolves into generic, action thriller kind of territory. But and the fact of him being able to you set Tom Cruise up as this master assassin, and then Jamie Foxx, this kind of near to well loser cab driver, is able to take him out. Okay, it's a movie, it's fine. But I kind of wish the movie would have stayed at the level the rest of it was. The first part was. But again, I need to rewatch it. It's been a while since I've seen it. Everybody else on Collateral, Scott and Spence.
This is my second favorite Michael Mann film. It fucking rocks. There are all these people who don't like Michael Mann, and I don't get it. This movie's great. Love Cruise. Love Fox. No complaints.
Does anybody else wonder whether or not anybody has found Tom Cruise's body on that MTA, because nobody uses public transportation in LA?
It's still there.
Yeah, I haven't seen the movie in a long time either, but of course I really liked it. I mean, these are two of my favorite actors probably. And Michael Mann, he's such a great, precise director. There's such an attention to detail in all of his movies that I think really takes them to the next level. And he shoots a climactic shootout between two dudes better than just about anybody. So it's a great movie. I just need to rewatch it.
Spence, you a big Miami Vice fan?
I like Heat.
Hola, chica.
Miami Vice almost made my list.
Jake, you seek help professionally.
Keep that stuff to yourself, buddy. That's not going to help you.
Park intensifies.
when we're off the air, I have a really good Michael Mann story for you. Might be telling you that when we're off the air. Okay, that takes us to Jake and his number 62.
My number 62 is Miami Vice. Nah, it's Get Out.
That is a yikes for another episode.
All right.
Fine.
Everybody's last pick of the night, Scott, number 61.
My 61 was a previous yikes. Parasite. It's Parasite. I mean, I feel like a lot of my movies tonight have just been it's Goodfellas. Just what else is there to say? It's Parasite. It's an awesome movie. It's so cool that this was the first foreign movie to win Best Picture. Of course, it probably should have happened before, but this is a great choice to be the first one, I think, because it might sound like a weird comment, but it's a Korean film, and it is very Korean in the sense that the issues that it has on its mind, not just stylistically it is, of course, but the issues that it has on its mind about class are very, I'm not going to say unique to Korean society, because obviously we have, it resonates with people here too, but class is something that is on the minds of Koreans even more than it is over here. Like it's a big deal over there, like the class hierarchies. And Bong Joon-ho, really wants to explore that by exploring all the different levels, right? And he's just kind of like looking at what do people have to do to climb the social ladder, right? Like, and usually it's immoral things, and yet he's packing all of these ideas into just this incredibly like entertaining, thrilling, suspenseful, funny, genre like pulpy movie. And it's one of those movies where you just genuinely don't know what's going to happen next. And again, I'm so glad that people watched this movie and that it became what it was, because I think it's opening up a world to people for watching, Korean movies, foreign language films in general, just where they're doing things that American films just aren't. And there are few American films I've seen that just have the unpredictability, at least in recent years, that Parasite does. Like, again, you don't know what's going to happen from scene to scene, and you're just enthralled watching it. And those first scenes of just watching the whole plot, go into motion, and the scheming that the Park family does, like when he holds up the bloody, the Kleenex out of the trash can, just like such an amazing image. When you just see how it all comes together, it's so satisfying. My favorite sequence is probably the cooking Ramdan sequence, where she has to make the ramen before the family gets home, and it's just like this perfectly synchronized, like suspenseful sequence of them all trying to clean up the house, and then ending as the music ends also with that perfect, like, darkly comic moment of her kicking the housekeeper back down the stairs, and then of course the violent finale in the yard. It's just an amazing movie. Again, people really discovered this one, which is great. Bong Joon-ho is making movies unlike anyone else, and as good as Parasite is, it's not even his best movie.
I was lucky enough to go watch this movie, to hear about the movie and go into it not knowing anything about it. And I don't remember who it was, but somebody said that they didn't get the hype of it, thinking it's batshit crazy, but they said it's only batshit crazy in like the last 20 minutes. No, this movie is batshit crazy kind of from jump. Because the way that the brother gets the job and then gets his sister the job and then gets his father the job and that is like just how batshit crazy the housewife is, and what she's able to be so gullible to look into, and the stories they are able to spin just off rip to be able to get into these positions, to move into the upper class, and then the actual batshit crazy stuff happens, and you are completely sucked into the movie from then on out. It is an amazing film. It's one of my favorites from that year. And I think it's something that everybody should watch, and try to know as little as possible going into it, even though everybody's talked about it ever since.
Does anybody else have this? Okay. I really like Parasite. I think it's a really, really good movie. The problem is, for me, again, I don't think it's overhyped, but just as much hype as it got for me, kind of. And I want to go back and rewatch it like multiple times, because I've said this before. The day I went and saw this in theaters was the day it took over #1 on Letterboxd. So it's like, and it had been like, I think up to like 6 months, a year before this movie released in the States, like there was a lot of hype, a lot of talk about it. So finally get to see this, and I was like, I didn't know anything about the story. I just knew how much people were talking about it. So I think that kind of, again, I don't know how to feel about it because of that. It just, I think this is the most like I've ever had a movie, the hype blind me to it, I guess. And again, I'm not saying anything bad about it. I really think it's a good movie. I think it's a lot of fun. I love how like just Ben genres. Like if you go and like look on Letterboxd or IMDb, them trying to classify this movie, it's a comedy, it's a horror, it's a crime, it's everything. And I really like it about that. I like there's nothing bad to say about it. I'm trying to figure out if it's as great as everybody says it is, and I'm just not there yet. I know it's really good. I don't know if it's that great. So I got to put more work into this movie. Everybody else on Parasite, Scott and Jake and Spence.
I can just It's a great movie. There's no hot takes to be had. If you don't like this, you're wrong. However, it's not the best foreign language film of 2019. So, Scott, hopefully you have the other one higher. Rue, I don't think you've seen it. I'm not going to say it because it's just intuition. Or you can just like, oh, it's Les Mis. No, you're wrong.
I don't think anybody.
Hugh Jackman is great in that.
Oh yeah, when he is the French, yes.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
Oh, I'm sorry, your opinion disagrees with the man behind the fucking curtain.
Jake.
Oh yeah. So I think that Parasite winning Best Picture almost makes up for the Green Book year. Like, I wonder if there was it almost seems like there was a subconscious thing where they were like, we picked the least cool movie in the past maybe 50 years of Oscars, and then they picked the coolest movie the next year. I don't know. There's something going on there where I'm just I love Parasite, and it might be the coolest Oscar win of all time.
It's up there. All right, that takes us to Spence and your number 61.
Green Book is worse than Crash.
Although the foreign language film should have won that year instead of Green Book.
Hey Scott, can you yikes this for me? Because I think you might. And
I agree with that, Kirk.
8th grade.
I already had it earlier.
Fuck me. 8th grade is really good. It's fantastic. It's hard to say because it's been such a strong decade, but this could be one of top 5 best 2010s coming of age movies. Bo Burnham crafted something so meticulously young, and for someone who is old, I think it's a really phenomenal achievement to connect with the younger generation like he did. I'm not super close to Kayla's age, but being the same generation, I went through a lot of the same generational anxieties that she did, and I think he captures it so masterfully. Well, also, and this is the weird thing to shout out, it has a great way of balancing tone, but not just the comedy. I mean, it has created one of the most horrifying scenes in any film I've ever seen, and the fact that it still works tonally with the rest of this just depression and anxiety, just massacre, is fantastic. And again, cannot shout out more to Elsie Fisher, who in their first acting performance ever, just something that honestly probably could have won an Oscar. This is incredible. Fuck you, Kirk. If you haven't seen it, go treat yourself.
Yeah, I had this in my 90s. I don't think that a movie has better captured what it is for young people to grow up in this particular age of technology and social media being what it is. Just the scenes of Kayla on Instagram scrolling through, taking the selfies, just literally trying to model herself after every single, person that she sees on social media. Very, very realistic, I think, for kids who are growing up again in this day and age. This movie is just filled with so many moments of anxiety where you don't know what is going to happen. You just want the best for her because you see that she's trying really hard. But sometimes it goes really badly, sometimes it goes unexpectedly good, and the moments where it does take a positive turn, I think, are so much more satisfying because you're not necessarily expecting it. It's just she's the kind of person where you're just expecting that everything is kind of gonna go wrong for her. But when she calls the senior girl who was gave her the tour at the high school, and she's trying to call her on the phone to hang out, and you're oh my gosh, no, what are you doing? She's not gonna. But then the girl turns out to be awesome, and they hang out and everything. It's just unexpected things like that. And then the scene by the campfire with Josh Hamilton as the father, the way that he senses that opportunity to actually express feelings to his daughter, and that he's actually getting through to her, and so it just all comes pouring out in this very sweet monologue. It's a wonderful movie. Bo Burnham is just, he's such a smart social commentator, and my words are failing me. And I think I was really impressed with how well directed the movie is, in addition to all the other things I've said about it.
Okay, 8th grade. This movie comes out. Everybody's hyping it out. It's like this coming of age story about this young girl, but like everybody loves it and everybody's saying how great it is. So what clicks in my mind with this, what I automatically compare to in my head is I'm thinking I'm going to go see this movie and I'm going to get another Lady Bird. And this movie is not Lady Bird. I feel like it's not bad. It wasn't terrible. I think it did suffer from the hype for me because everybody hyped up so much. But and again, it's a 12-year-old girl, 13-year-old girl, however. So I mean, there's only like a limited amount I can feel connected to her. But I feel like a movie like Lady Bird, or even a movie like Edge of 17, there's a universality there with those characters that just was kind of lacking here. My other problem is, other than that one scene that you're talking about, Spence, the drama in this movie is at a minimum. Like you said, Scott, like, she calls up the 12th grader. It's like, oh yeah, we'll hang out. We'll be friends. Like, I mean, there's so many opportunities for like real drama and, and real like heartbreak. And you don't really get that. Like it never really seems, again, other than that one scene, was awful. But I feel like the movie does it, like that happens and it's on and the movie goes on being what it was. So yeah, this movie I think is kind of overhyped. Top 61 all time, crazy. Scott, 90s. I mean, 90s are your 90s. But yeah, this movie just didn't do it for me like a lot of movies in this genre have. So Jake and Rue, you did not have this.
Okay, just one detour. Since Bar is like talking shit in the chat, the reason that Sandler couldn't do Collateral was because of Spanglish, and we might disagree on all of this shit, but
let's not bring back Spanglish, please. We have spent way too much time.
We all agree, fuck Spanglish. Okay. Honestly, this is honest to God. When Spence said there's that horror scene in the middle of this movie, I immediately jumped to, of course, the birthday party scene where the popular girl doesn't like her gift. I was like, that's the horror scene.
But to somebody who's been through that, it is a horror scene.
The whole movie's a horror scene.
But that one, I was like, that is what he's talking about. He's exaggerating slightly, but he's talking about that scene. I went to a birthday party where I gave like a kid a shirt. And he put the shirt on in the bathroom, and he came out of the bathroom, and his mom said, "Ooh, sexy." And I was like, what? Cole's mom thinks he's sexy.
What the fuck happens in Canada?
I was like, I think Cole. I remember talking to some kid later that day and being like, I think Cole's mom wants to have sex with him. Anyways, that's my story about 8th grade.
I have yet to see this movie. It's been on the watch list for a long time. I just haven't gotten around to it.
All right. Root, what is your number 61?
All right, my 61 is a movie that I have two movies that if you have never seen or have never heard of, this is the one I just implore you to watch. It's one of my favorite rom-coms of all time. It's Brown Sugar. And Brown Sugar is one of my favorite rom-coms because it has those two characters you connect to. It has the story of them missing each other and coming back and missing each other that you want to root for them. And you like following along. It has the side characters, the best friends that aren't the trope best friends that are just one thing. Queen Latifah and Mos Def are so good as actually fully fleshed out characters that back up their friends and also get on them when they're doing stupid shit. And it starts on Lathan and Taye Diggs. But the big reason I love this movie is because it does such a good job at actually becoming a love story, not between each other from when they're kids and they first meet and growing up, but it's a love story to hip hop. And if you've ever heard of the song I Used to Love Her by Common, It's a song where he takes 2 or 3 verses to talk about a woman that he's loved and lost and has gone through stuff, and no matter what, he's loved her. And at the end, the last bar is, if you don't know who I'm talking about hip hop. And when it came out, everybody was like, oh, that is a metaphor of metaphors. And that is what this movie does. It is a love story to hip hop with so many cameos from historic to current day in the 2000s, hip hop artists. And the way that the love story navigates their love story with each other, also with the music industry, because that's what they get into later, but also as hip hop as a culture and a genre and a music is so intertwined that anybody who's been in the culture and loves that music connects to it so well. There's this bit throughout the movie where Tay Diggs' character Dre is so just done with the big corporations and the major music labels just getting so tired of just not real music and not real hip hop. And he quits his job to start an independent label because they want to sign a group called Ren and 10, the Hip Hop Dalmatians, because it's one black guy, one white guy. They literally come in fur Dalmatian suits with one black with white spots and one white with black spots. And they make a remade version of The Girl Is Mine and call it The Hoe Is Mine. And it's just such an amalgamation of what hip hop lovers like me feel about hip hop today and all this mumble rap crap that is out, where there's some that's great, but it's just some is just a gimmick and absolutely just not the culture. And his navigation through that, on top of that, mirroring his navigation of being stupid enough to let Sydney get away with somebody and him marrying somebody and trying to get back together. I just love how that mirrors. It also has one of the most adorable endings in any rom-com I've ever seen. I don't want to spoil that part. And also one of the most hilarious breakup scenes I've ever seen. Again, another one I don't want to spoil, but I love this movie to death. This is what you would call a hood classic. It is just a staple in the Black community, and I absolutely love this film.
All right. I watched this movie for the show. The hip hop thing, like just going through like the history of hip hop and that passion for hip hop is interesting. I wish they would have taken that and made its own movie. The rom-com aspects to me are very generic. I feel it's just a very generic rom-com. I feel like it has those characters, it has those moments, those situations. I don't think the script was great. The editing in this movie, editing is pretty rough. There are just some scenes I was watching this and I had to rewind it like 3 times. You know, I was laying in bed watching this on my phone and a scene happened. I leaned over to Kathy. I'm like, watch this. Did this just happen or did I miss something? Because like just the editing is so choppy and it was just real kind of off-putting. So again, like I said, I like that the story of hip hop. I wish they would have made that the focus instead of just making that the framing device for this kind of generic movie. So I understand the connection just from the music. Like I could watch that. Like I could, and the soundtrack's pretty good. Like seeing all those, all the cameos, and that's all cool. I just wish that would have became a different movie. Has anybody else seen Brown Sugar?
I was just curious. Is there any like connection to the D'Angelo debut album, or is this
no? That was about a good 7 years after the D'Angelo album came out.
Okay. Yeah, the cast is stacked, so I added it to my watch list. I added a few.
I will say everything Kirk says about it being generic, kind of rom-com-y, and I've never really paid attention to editing when I first watched it, so it's nothing that actually sticks out to me. I have to pay attention to that. He's not 100% wrong about it. It's just the connection to that for me and being able to love the characters as much is why I love this movie so much. But yeah, it's a rom-com.
Most Def is good. I'll give you that. Like,
I love Most Def.
Yeah,
love Most Def.
So, Rue,
you piqued my interest.
I'm sure you remember. One of the first times we actually hung out was your friends talking about like the history of rap, and I just sat there in the corner like, I am like the least knowledgeable person about this. You pitched this movie so well. Like I am so interested in this. I added to my watch list. I want to watch it like right away That was an incredible pitch she gave.
All right. Scott, you said you haven't seen it?
I haven't seen it yet. Sorry.
Okay, Jake, take us home. You're number 61.
No Country for Old Men is my 61. No yikes? No yikesing? Okay. So I recently like showed my wife No Country for Old Men because I was like, how haven't you seen No Country for Old Men? We're like the same age. You have to see this movie. It's like special. And I didn't actually realize how much this impacted me when I saw it back in 2007. I've watched it a bunch of times in between, but this time I somehow saw it with fresh eyes through my wife. And yeah, so much of what's incredible about this movie is that it works purely on a visual level. This movie is so comfortable with silence. It's also comfortable with monologues, two opposite things, and it's just like this elegant machine that the Coens have constructed out of Cormac McCarthy's masterpiece. I can't. People often say Ledger, his Joker is the best villain of the past, whatever. And yeah, sure, that's a. I'm not going to argue against that, but Anton Chigurh for me is my favorite villain. Something just there's ice in his veins, you know, and when you watch that movie, you feel that, and you get I get full body chills at certain sequences in this, and just can't get enough of it. The momentum of it, the simplicity. I love this movie.
First time that I watched this movie, I did not like it at all. I just felt like it was trying so hard to subvert expectations and subvert the genre that it was almost like to like a trolling level. Like, oh, you know, we killed our character off screen. You didn't even see it happen. And the main character, and you know, the bad guy gets away with it. So I just wasn't feeling that. On subsequent rewatches, I've connected to it more. I still want to watch it more because I think there's still a lot that I'm just not connecting with yet, and I think I will. I think this is a movie I can get into deeper. I'm not quite there yet, but I respect it, and I respect the pick. I just need a little more time with it. Everybody else on No Country.
I think this is the first movie mentioned that I am like, shit, this should have been on my list. Again, I caught it late. I think I've only seen it once. I've only seen it once. If I've seen it twice, it's definitely be on there. It should be on there for me. If I really think about it, Sister Act 2 would probably be gone. This would be somewhere on my list. And maybe
I started Sister Act. It's fun.
It is fun. But No Country for Old Men and Anton Chigurh Javier Bardem is so fucking good in this film. And so is everybody else. But this is a great, great movie.
Yeah, I mean it's technically close to a perfect movie probably. Again though, it's another one of those like I was talking about with like Taxi Driver or Raging Bull earlier, where it's just like it's bleak, right? So it's hard to come back to. For me, I think that's the only thing that stops it from being on my list. Because I do think it's a little bit. I think the rewatch value is not quite as high as in some other Coen movies, but yeah, it's hard to say a bad thing about it. I do think for what it's trying to do, it pretty much hits the bullseye.
Yeah, this exists. I need to rewatch this. This is like I think this is actually the first Coens I saw, and I just didn't give a shit. It was slow and it was boring. I cared about none of the characters. I'm gonna rewatch it eventually. Right now, very overrated. Their second most overrated movie because Big Lebowski sucks.
Why do we have to end on that note?
Yeah, fuck you, Spence.
Well, that is it. We are going to end there, for better or worse. So I got to name a winner here. I think this week it's pretty obvious. Your winner tonight is Spence.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. Scott wins. Scott, you got Goodfellas, you got Seven, you got Cuckoo's Nest, you got Graduate. your list tonight was an oasis in the desert that is this top 100 series. I feel like I, for the first time, was actually talking to somebody who watches movies. So excited about your list tonight. Thank you. So that Christmas Vacation, oh, fantastic, great job. Everybody else is kind of like bunched together. So a lot of your scores based on what you said about Scott's list, and Rue said the most right stuff. So Rue got second place.
Hey,
There it is.
Yeah, you had some good movies on there. Major League, Guardians, Goblet of Fire. Got some good stuff on there. Bar, shut up, Christmas Vacation. Get out of here.
I'm just happy for Rue.
But yeah, Rue got. And then again, you guys are kind of bunched together. All three of you guys. I mean, it could have been. It was a photo finish for second, third, and fourth here. I'm gonna go. You both crapped on The Graduate. Neither of you had really great things to say about Goodfellas.
I said I like it.
I showed you a new movie.
You both said.
Perfect is amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing
draw.
one.
I think I'm gonna give it to Jake. Jake.
Hey, I was waiting to say this is bullshit.
Yeah. Blue Davis, Raised in Arizona, Schindler's List. Catch Me If You Can. We talk about or Schindler's List. We don't talk about yet. No Country's a solid pick. So yeah, Jake is third. Spence, again, it's not like you had a horrible list. It was a tough pick.
Give me my last place. I'm used to it, actually.
Dude, hey, I said I didn't hate Dude, bro. That's a win for you. But Full Metal Jacket's good. But you had like Mockingjay on here. Yeah, 8th Grade. It was a middling list. Again, not terrible, but it is what it is. So that's it for tonight, guys. Thank you so much. Scott, bring me more. Everybody, be more like Scott the rest of the show, please. Help me out.
I can't believe this is happening,
I'm
honestly.
dying.
Change my list now.
Interesting takes.
Please, I'm begging you. Give me more like that.
Oh, it definitely won't. It definitely won't.
But I know.
It gets worse.
Like I said, Scott refreshed me for the long journey that will be the rest of this show. So thank you all for watching. For Scott, Jake, Amaru, Spence, Koho behind the scenes. Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for sticking around in the chat. And tune in next week, same time. Almost halfway.
You're not going to intimidate me. I'm entitled to my opinion.
Drunk and angry. Come on, break the lousy cup. Ow! I hurt my arm.
And not expect everybody to do everything.
I'm going there soon, you know.
Is that so? Where are you going?
Uruguay.
Well, you go Uruguay and I'll go mine.